the floating city of the Aztecs, how Tenochtitlan rose from a lake.
The Aztecs built Tenochtitlan on a lake, connected by causeways and canals.
Imagine a world where a city doesn't rise from the earth, but floats upon the water. A city of such impossible beauty. It seemed conjured from a dream. This was Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec Empire, a marvel that left the first Europeans who saw it utterly speechless. Picture this. The year is 1519. You are a Spanish soldier, having marched 4 weeks through dense jungles and over rugged mountains. You've heard whispers of a golden city, a metropolis unlike any other, but nothing could prepare you for what lies ahead. As dawn breaks, you crest a high mountain pass. The mist clinging to the valley floor begins to part, and there, shimmering in the first light of day, is a sight that defies belief. Below you, nestled in the vast, serene waters of Lake Texcoco, lies a city. It isn't just beside the lake, it's asterisk on asterisk. It's a sprawling tapestry of gleaming white temples, grand palaces, and tidy homes, all seemingly suspended on the water's surface. A network of canals acts as liquid streets, plied by thousands of canoes. Long, straight causeways, marvels of engineering, connect this aquatic island to the mainland. The entire city seems to pulse with life, its reflection dancing on the tranquil lake. One of the soldiers, Bernal Diaz del Castillo, would later write in his journal, "When we saw so many cities and villages built in the water and other great towns on dry land, and that straight and level causeway going towards Mexico, we weary Amaset, on account of the great towers and temples and buildings rising from the water, and all built of masonry. And some of our soldiers even asked whether the things that we saw were not a dream. It wasn't a dream." This was Tenochtitlan, a city born from a prophecy and built with incredible ingenuity. But how did this floating metropolis come to be? How did a nomadic tribe, guided by their gods, transform a swampy island into the most powerful and magnificent city in the Americas? To understand this wonder, we must travel back in time to the very beginning of the Aztec journey. The story begins around the 12th century with a people known as the Mexica. They were one of several tribes migrating south into the Valley of Mexico, searching for a new home. For decades, they wandered, often driven away by more established groups who saw them as unwelcome outsiders. Their journey was one of hardship and perseverance, guided by an unwavering faith in their patron god, Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli had given them a specific prophecy, a sign to look for that would mark their destined homeland. They were to search for an eagle, perched majestically upon a prickly pear cactus, devouring a snake. For nearly 200 years, the Mexica searched for this divine sign. They faced starvation, conflict, and despair, yet they never abandoned their quest. Finally, around the year 1325, they found it. On a small marshy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, an island no one else wanted, they saw the eagle, the cactus, and the snake. This was the place. Against all odds, in this seemingly inhospitable environment, they were to build their city. This challenging location, which would have deterred others, became the very source of their strength and innovation. Building a city on a swampy island was a monumental task. The ground was soft and unstable. How could they lay the foundations for massive stone temples that wouldn't sink into the mud? The Aztecs developed an ingenious solution. These were artificial islands, often called floating gardens. Though they didn't truly float, they were created by weaving a web of stakes and reeds into the shallow lake bed, then piling layers of mud and decaying vegetation on top. This not only created stable, fertile land for farming, but also formed the very foundation of the expanding city. As the city grew, so did its need for a connection to the mainland. The Aztecs engineered and constructed 3 enormous causeways, wide enough for 10 horsemen to ride abreast. These were not simple earthen pads. They were sophisticated structures with built-in bridges that could be raised to allow canoe traffic to pass, or, in times of war, to cut off the city from an invading army. This masterful engineering turned the lake from a barrier into a fortress, a natural defense that was key to their security. Inside this aquatic fortress, a vibrant society flourished. The city was meticulously planned. A great ceremonial precinct stood at its heart, dominated by the Templo Mayor, a massive twin pyramid dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, and Tlaloc, the god of rain and agriculture. This sacred center was the axis of the Aztec universe, a place of grand rituals and immense political power. Radiating out from the center were the bustling city streets, or rather, canals. Tenochtitlan was a Venice of the New World. People traveled everywhere by canoe, paddling through a labyrinth of waterways. Great markets, like the one at Tlatelolco, drew crowds of up to 60,000 people a day. Merchants arrived from all corners of the empire, bringing goods like cocoa, vanilla, rubber, jaguar pelts, and brilliant feathers from tropical birds. The market was a sensory explosion of colors, sounds, and smells, a testament to the vast trade network the Aztecs controlled. The city was also remarkably clean and organized. Squadrons of workers kept the streets and canals tidy. Aqueducts, built with remarkable precision, brought fresh water from springs on the mainland into the city for drinking and bathing. The Aztec people placed a high value on hygiene, a practice that astonished the comparatively grimy Europeans. When the Spaniards first walked the streets of Tenochtitlan, they were astounded by the order, the scale, and the sheer beauty of it all. They saw botanical gardens and zoos, palaces with spacious courtyards and intricate stonework. They saw a society with a complex social structure, with priests, warriors, artisans, and farmers, all playing their part in the great urban symphony. The population of Tenochtitlan is estimated to have been around 200,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world, at the time larger than Paris, London, or Seville. It was the glittering capital of an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico, a scent of art, religion, and power that had risen from the most unlikely of foundations. This was the city the Spanish found, a jewel box floating on a lake, a testament to human will and ingenuity. It was a city that seemed both impossible and inevitable, the culmination of a long journey and the beginning of a dramatic and ultimately tragic final chapter. The sight that left them speechless was not just a collection of buildings, but the living, breathing heart of a civilization at the peak of its power. A city that, for a brief, shining moment in history, truly touched the sky. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time to the incredible city of Tenochtitlan. If you were as fascinated by this floating wonder as I am, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the most amazing stories from our past. We've only just scratched the surface, and I can't wait to explore more with you. See you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through the annals of history. Today, we venture into a realm of myth and majesty, a land forged by fire and water, the very cradle of the Aztec civilization, the Valley of Mexico. Imagine, if you will, a vast basin cradled by a ring of colossal mountains. This isn't just any valley. It's a high-altitude marvel, perched more than 7,000 feet above sea level. Dominating the skyline are two legendary sentinels, the snow-capped volcanoes, Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl, their names echoing ancient tales of love and loss. These smoking mountain and white woman are more than just geological features. They are woven into the spiritual fabric of the land, their presence a constant, powerful reminder of the forces that shape this world. Now, let's look down from these volcanic peaks into the heart of the basin. Before the arrival of the Spanish, this valley wasn't the sprawling urban landscape we know today. Instead, it was a breathtaking network of 5 interconnected lakes: Zumpango, Xaltocan, Texcoco, Ixoquimilco, and Calco. Picture a shimmering expanse of water, reflecting the azure sky and the towering mountains, a massive inland sea stretching for miles. The largest and most central of these was Lake Texcoco. Its waters were brackish, salty, a stark contrast to the freshwater lakes of Ixoquimilco and Calco to the south. This difference was crucial. The freshwater lakes, fed by natural springs and mountain runoff, were teeming with life. They were the valley's breadbasket, their surfaces dotted with fish, waterfowl, and edible algae like spirulina, a superfood even then. The surrounding land, enriched by volcanic soil and abundant water, was exceptionally fertile. This was a land of plenty, a paradise seemingly designed for a great civilization to flourish. This unique aquatic environment dictated the very rhythm of life. The people of the valley became masters of water. They navigated the lakes in canoes, which served as the primary highways for trade and communication. Entire communities lived on and around the water, their lives intrinsically linked to its ebbs and flows. The lakes provided sustenance, a means of transport, and a natural defense against invaders. It was a world built on water. But this paradise had a fragile side. The Valley of Mexico is a closed basin, meaning water flows in but has no natural outlet to the sea. This made it prone to catastrophic flooding, especially during the heavy rainy seasons. A single powerful storm could inundate settlements and destroy crops, turning the source of life into a force of destruction. Managing this delicate hydrological balance was a constant struggle, a challenge that would demand incredible ingenuity from its inhabitants. Furthermore, the very volcanoes that enriched the soil with their ash also posed an existential threat. The ground trembled with frequent earthquakes, and the ever-present plumes of smoke from Popocatépetl were a reminder of the molten power lying just beneath the surface. To live here was to live in a state of dynamic tension, caught between abundance and peril, creation and destruction. It was a landscape that demanded respect, resilience, and a deep understanding of the natural world. It is within this dramatic, beautiful, and volatile setting that the Aztec story begins. The geography of the Valley of Mexico wasn't just a backdrop for their civilization. It was the driving force behind their innovation, their beliefs, and their ultimate destiny. The fertile soil allowed their population to grow. The lakes provided a unique foundation for their capital city, and the surrounding mountains isolated and protected them. As we delve deeper into the Aztec world, remember this landscape. Remember the shimmering lakes reflecting the volcanoes, the canoes gliding silently across the water, and the ever-present dance between fertility and fragility. For it was here, in this high-altitude basin of fire and water, that one of history's most fascinating and powerful empires rose from the marshes to build a city of dreams. The story of the Aztecs is inextricably linked to the story of this land, a testament to how geography can shape the course of human history. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the Valley of Mexico. In our next chapter, we'll witness the arrival of a nomadic tribe, the Mexica, and learn how they transformed this challenging environment into the heart of their empire. If you found this journey fascinating, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. We'll see you then. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of history's most epic journeys. Imagine leaving everything you've ever known behind, not for gold or conquest, but because your gods told you to. This isn't a fantasy novel. It's the real story of the Mexica, the people who would later be known as the Aztecs. Their story begins not in a grand city, but in a mythical homeland called Aztlan, the place of whiteness, or place of the herons. We don't know exactly where Aztlan was, but historians believe it was likely somewhere in northern Mexico, or the southwestern United States. The Mexicae were one of many Nahuatl-speaking groups living in and around Aztlan. They lived a relatively stable life, but everything changed around the year 1064 CE. According to their own chronicles, their principal god, the powerful deity of the sun and war, Huitzilopochtli, spoke to their priests. The message was clear and divine. They were to leave Aztlan and search for a new home. This wasn't just a suggestion. It was a sacred command. Huitzilopochtli promised them a glorious destiny, a place where they would build a great empire. But there was a catch. They wouldn't know where this promised land was until they saw a very specific, and frankly, very strange sign. What was this sign? Huitzilopochtli told them to look for an eagle, perched majestically on a nopal cactus, devouring a snake. This powerful image, which is now the centerpiece of the Mexican flag, would mark the exact spot where they were to build their new capital. And so, with faith as their only map and a divine prophecy as their compass, the Mexica packed their belongings, gathered their families, and embarked on a journey into the unknown. They became a nomadic people, leaving behind the certainty of Aztlan for the promise of a divine destiny. This was the beginning of a migration that would span generations and changed the course of Mesoamerican history forever. The journey was anything but easy. We're talking about a multi-generational trek that lasted for over 200 years. Think about that for a moment. Children were born, grew old, and passed away without ever seeing the promised land. Their entire world was the journey itself. They weren't just wandering aimlessly, though. They were guided by their priests, who carried a sacred bundle, the asterisk, Tila Quimi, Lali asterisk, which was believed to contain the essence of Huitzilopochtli himself. The priests would interpret dreams, omens, and the whispers of their god to decide when to stop, when to move on, and which direction to take. Along the way, they would settle temporarily in various places, building small communities, farming the land, and interacting with the local tribes. Sometimes these encounters were peaceful, leading to trade and cultural exchange. Other times, they were met with hostility. The Mexica, guided by their warrior god Huitzilopochtli, became formidable fighters out of necessity. They had to defend themselves, secure resources, and prove their strengths to their neighbors. Each stop, each conflict, and each alliance was a learning experience, shaping their culture, their military tactics, and their identity. One of the most significant stops on their journey was at Coatepec, the Serpent Hill. Here, they built a temple and tried to recreate their sacred homeland. It was at Coatepec that a foundational myth took place, the story of Huitzilopochtli's birth. Legend says his mother, Coatlicue, became miraculously pregnant, which angered her other children, the 400 Southerners, who plotted to kill her. Just as they were about to strike, Huitzilopochtli sprang from the womb, fully grown and armed, and defeated his siblings, establishing his dominance as their supreme god. This story reinforced his power and the Mexica's belief that they were his chosen people, destined for greatness. But Coatepec was not their final destination. The journey had to continue. As the years turned into decades, and decades into centuries, the Mexica finally arrived in the Valley of Mexico. Around the 13th century, this was the heart of Mesoamerican civilization at the time. A bustling, sophisticated region filled with powerful city-states, all vying for dominance around a series of large interconnected lakes. With Lake Texcoco being the largest, the Mexica were the new kids on the block. They were seen as outsiders, uncivilized wanderers. They were latecomers to a party that had been going on for a long time. Finding a place to settle was incredibly difficult. All the good land was already taken by powerful groups like the Topanecs of Azcapotzalco and the Acolhua of Tec. The local rulers looked down on the Mexica and were not eager to share their territory. So, for a time, the Mexica had to humble themselves. They became vassals, serving as mercenaries and laborers for the more established powers. They were first granted a small, barren patch of land at Chapul or Grasshopper Hill, but they were eventually driven out after conflicts with their neighbors. Their next stop was even worse. The Lord of Calhuecan, a city with a prestigious Toltec lineage, mockingly offered them a place called Tezep. It was a desolate, rocky area infested with venomous snakes. The Lord of Calhuecan expected the snakes to finish off the troublesome newcomers. But the Mexica surprised everyone. Instead of perishing, they roasted and ate the snakes, turning a death trap into a source of sustenance. This act, born of desperation, earned them a grudging respect. They were tough, they were resourceful, and they would not be easily defeated. Their reputation as fierce warriors grew, and they continued to serve as mercenaries, biding their time. The relationship with Calhuecan eventually soured in a truly dramatic fashion. The Mexica requested the daughter of the Calhuecan king to be their goddess and the bride of their leader. The king agreed, hoping for an alliance. However, following the instructions of Huitzilopochtli, the Mexica priests sacrificed the princess and flayed her skin. The king was invited to a ceremony, only to see a priest dancing while wearing his daughter's skin. Horrified and enraged, he declared war, and the Mexica were forced to flee once again, this time into the marshy swamplands of Lake Texcoco. It seemed like they had hit rock bottom. They were refugees, hated by all the powerful cities in the valley. It was there, in the year 1325 CE, pushed to the brink, hiding in the reeds of the lake, that their long, arduous journey finally came to an end. A priest named Tenoch had a vision. The leaders went to a small, muddy island in the middle of the lake. and there they saw it. Just as Huitzilopochtli had promised centuries before, there was a magnificent eagle, perched on a prickly pear cactus, holding a writhing serpent in its beak. The prophecy was fulfilled. Their wandering was over. This was the sign they had been waiting for. This inhospitable, swampy island was their promised land. Against all odds, this was where they would build their great city. They named it Tenochtitlan, meaning the place of the prickly pear cactus. It was a seemingly terrible location for a city marché, unstable and prone to flooding. But the Mexica were nothing if not resilient and ingenious. They had been hardened by 2 centuries of migration, warfare, and survival. They began a monumental engineering project. They developed a system of artificial islands called chinampas, or floating gardens, by weaving together reeds, piling on mud from the lake bed, and planting trees to anchor them. These chinampas were incredibly fertile, allowing them to produce multiple harvests a year and feed a rapidly growing population. They built causeways to connect their island city to the mainland, complete with drawbridges for defense. They constructed dikes to control the water levels and aqueducts, to bring fresh water into the city from springs on the mainland. From these humble and desperate beginnings, Tenochtitlan grew into one of the largest and most magnificent cities in the world. Within 200 years, it became the heart of the vast Aztec Empire, a bustling metropolis of towering pyramids, grand palaces, and sprawling markets that amazed the Spanish when they first saw it. The journey that started with a whisper from a god in the mythical land of Aztlan had culminated in the creation of a powerful empire. The story of the Mexica migration is a truly incredible testament to the power of faith, resilience, and the sheer force of will to create a home and build a destiny against all odds. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Let me know in the comments what part of the Mexica journey you found most inspiring. Until next time, stay curious. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the incredible history of the Aztec civilization. In our last chapter, we followed the Mexica people on their arduous, centuries-long pilgrimage. Guided by the unwavering voice of their patron god, Huitzilopochtli, they were searching for a promised land, a place marked by a sign so specific, so divine, that it would be unmistakable. Today, in Chapter 4, we witness the epic moment when that prophecy is finally fulfilled. Imagine, for a moment, the sheer exhaustion. For 200 years, generations of the Mexica had been born, lived, and died on the move. They were wanderers, often unwelcome, driven by a faith that must have been tested daily. They had faced hostile tribes, harsh landscapes, and the constant uncertainty of a nomadic life. Their hope was tethered to a single, powerful image whispered from their god. They would find an eagle, perched majestically on an opal cactus, clutching a serpent in its beak. This was not just a sign, it was their destiny. By the early 14th century, around the year 1325, the Mexica had arrived in the Valley of Mexico. This area was already a bustling hub of city-states, all vying for power and resources around the shores of the great Lake Texcoco. The Mexica were the newcomers, the outsiders. They were initially pushed to the margins, settling in less than desirable lands, serving as mercenaries for the more powerful Tepanecs of Aztec. They were living in a region called Chapultepec, or Hill of the Grasshopper, but were eventually driven out after a conflict. Forced to flee, they found themselves pushed into the swamplands of Lake Texcoco, an area no one else wanted. It was a marshy, inhospitable island, teeming with insects and snakes. To many, this would have seemed like the end of the road, a final, miserable defeat. But for the Mexica, it was the dawn of a new era. It was here, in this unlikely, waterlogged landscape, that their priests finally saw it. Picture the scene, the sun glinting off the vast, shimmering surface of the lake, the air thick with the hum of insects and the cries of water birds. And there, rising from the marsh on a small, rocky islet, was a magnificent noble cactus. Perched atop it, with its wings spread wide against the sky, was a golden eagle. and gripped firmly in its powerful talons and beak was a writhing rattlesnake. It was the sign, the exact image from Huitzilopochtli's prophecy, brought to life before their very eyes. After 2 centuries of wandering, of struggle, of unwavering faith, their journey was over. This was the place. This was their promised land. The emotional impact of this moment cannot be overstated. It was a divine confirmation, a profound validation of their entire history and identity. It was a message that they were not lost, but had been guided to this specific spot. The hardship, the battles, the long years of uncertainty, it all suddenly made sense. It had all led them. This swampy, undesirable island was not a punishment. It was a gift. It was a natural fortress, a place where they could build a city protected by the surrounding waters. The eagle, a symbol of the sun and the heavens. The cactus, a plant of the earth. And the serpent, often representing water and the underworld. The convergence of these powerful symbols signified a place of cosmic balance, a true center of the universe. Without hesitation, the Mexica began the monumental task of transforming this marsh into their home. They began to build. They drove stakes into the soft lake bed, created artificial islands called chinampas for agriculture, and laid the foundations for what would become one of the greatest cities in the world. They named their new home Tenochtitlan, which can be translated as the place of the prickly pear cactus. The founding of Tenochtitlan was not just an act of construction. It was an act of sacred creation. The first structure they built was a humble shrine to their patron, Huitzilopochtli, on the very spot where the eagle had been seen. This small red-and-mud temple would be the seed from which the magnificent Templo Mayor, the spiritual heart of the entire Aztec Empire, would eventually grow. This founding story became the bedrock of Aztec identity. It was a tale of divine favor, of resilience, and of a destiny fulfilled against all odds. It's a story so powerful that its central image, the eagle, the cactus, and the serpent endures. To this day, if you look at the flag of modern Mexico, you will see this very scene, a direct link to that fateful day on Lake Texcoco nearly 700 years ago. The prophecy was fulfilled, but the story was far from over. From these humble, marshy beginnings, the Mexica would rise to create a sprawling empire that would dominate Mesoamerica. The founding of Tenochtitlan marked the end of their long pilgrimage and the beginning of their ascent to power, and that's where we'll leave it for today. The Wanderers have found their home, and the stage is set for the rise of an empire. Join us next time as we explore the incredible engineering and ingenuity that allowed the Aztecs to build a massive, thriving metropolis on a lake. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying this series, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in our story. We'll see you next time. Scene opens with a stunning visual of modern-day Mexico City, then transitions to an animated reconstruction of the ancient Lake Texcoco, and welcome back to our journey into the heart of the Aztec Empire. Today, we're diving into Chapter 5, Foundations on Mud and Dreams. Imagine being told to build a great city, a capital for a powerful empire, not on solid ground, but on a series of marshy, unstable islands in the middle of a vast lake. It sounds impossible, right? Like building a castle on a cloud. Yet, this is exactly the challenge the Aztecs faced, and their solution was nothing short of genius. The year is 1325. The Mexica people, guided by a prophecy, arrive at Lake Texcoco. They see an eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a snake, the divine sign they've been searching for. But their promised land is a swamp. Any ordinary group might have given up, but the Aztecs were extraordinary engineers. They didn't see an obstacle. They saw a canvas. Their dream of a magnificent capital, Tenochtitlan, would rise from the water itself. So, how did they do it? How do you build a solid foundation on what is essentially mud? The first step was to conquer the instability of the marshland. The Aztec engineers began by driving thousands of long wooden stakes deep into the soft lake bed. Picture this: a forest of sharpened poles, hammered down through layers of mud and silt until they hit the firmer, more stable ground beneath. These stakes weren't just randomly placed. They were meticulously arranged to create a strong, interlocking grid. This network of pilings acted like the roots of a massive tree, anchoring the future city to the earth below. Once this wooden skeleton was in place, the real magic began. The area between the stakes was filled with a mixture of whatever they could find. This wasn't just a random landfill. They used volcanic stone, which was lightweight and porous, along with gravel and sand. But the key ingredient was the mud dredged directly from the bottom of the lake. This rich, dense mud filled every gap, compacting over time to create a solid, stable mass. They were essentially creating new land, one section at a time. It was a slow, laborious process, but it was incredibly effective. This method created the first platforms of Tenochtitlan. These weren't just patches of dry land. They were carefully engineered platforms, raised above the water level, ready to support the weight of homes, temples, and palaces. Think of it as creating a series of man-made islands, all interconnected and reinforced. This technique of using stakes and fill is called land reclamation, and the Aztecs perfected it on a scale that was unprecedented for their time. What's truly remarkable is that they did all of this without modern machinery. No cranes, no hydraulic drills, just sheer human ingenuity, manpower, and an intimate understanding of their environment. They knew the properties of the local wood, the weight of the volcanic rock, and the composition of the lake bed. They worked with nature, not against it, turning a hostile environment into a strategic advantage. The water that surrounded them became a natural defense, and the lake itself provided the very materials for their city's construction. These initial platforms were the humble beginnings of what would become one of the largest and most magnificent cities in the world. On these foundations of mud, stone, and dreams, the Aztecs would build the towering pyramids of the Templo Mayor, sprawling marketplaces, and intricate canal systems that would rival Venice. The city that seemed impossible was taking shape, a testament to Aztec ambition and engineering prowess. It's a powerful reminder that with innovation and perseverance, even the most daunting challenges can be overcome. The foundations of Tenochtitlan were not just made of wood and stone. They were built on a foundation of unwavering belief and a brilliant vision for the future. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible story of ancient engineering. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more chapters from the heart of the Aztec world. We've got so much more to explore together. See you in the next video. Imagine stepping back in time, not to the cobbled streets of Rome or the dusty roads of ancient Egypt, but to a city that floated on water, a metropolis where avenues weren't paved with stone, but filled with shimmering canals. And the sound of traffic wasn't the clatter of carts, but the gentle swish of paddles dipping into the water. This wasn't Venice, though it shared its aquatic soul. This was Tenochtitlan, the magnificent capital of the Aztec Empire. Welcome back to our journey into the heart of this incredible civilization. In our last chapter, we explored the founding of this island city. Today, in Chapter 6, we're going to navigate the very lifelines of Tenochtitlan. Its canals. Forget everything you know about a typical city layout. Here, water was the master architect. Picture this: a vast city, home to over 200,000 people, built on a man-made island in the middle of a lake. How do you move, trade, build, and live in such a place? The Aztecs had an ingenious answer. They embraced the water. They didn't fight it. They wove it into the very fabric of their daily lives. The city was a grid, a masterful piece of urban planning. But the lines on this grid were canals, not streets. These canals weren't just random waterways. They were a highly organized network. Major, Wide canals acted as the city's main arteries, crisscrossing the four great quarters of Tenochtitlan. These were the grand boulevards, bustling with activity. Think of them as the aquatic highways, connecting the city center with the outlying areas and the mainland shores of Lake Texcoco. Flowing off these main arteries were countless smaller, narrower canals. These were the residential streets, winding through neighborhoods, reaching every corner of the city. They were intimate, personal spaces. Instead of a front door opening onto a sidewalk, many homes had their own small dock. Stepping out of your house meant stepping directly into a canoe, and the canoes, or kakali, in the Nahuatl language, were the lifeblood of this system. They came in all shapes and sizes, each with a specific purpose. There were small, nimble canoes for personal travel, like the family car of today. A single person could easily paddle themselves to the market, to visit relatives, or to a temple. Then there were larger, sturdier vessels, the city's freight trucks. These were capable of carrying heavy loads. Tons of stone for constructing pyramids, massive timbers for buildings, and, most importantly, vast quantities of food to feed the sprawling population. Imagine the scene at dawn. The canals would slowly come to life. Farmers from the chinampas, the floating gardens on the city's outskirts, would load their canoes high with fresh produce, corn, beans, squash, tomatoes, and vibrant flowers. They'd paddle silently through the morning mist, their goods destined for the great market of Clat. The canals were a moving marketplace, a constant parade of commerce. Merchants would hawk their wares directly from their canoes, creating floating traffic jams of trade and chatter. These waterways were also crucial for construction and maintenance. Tenochtitlan was in a constant state of growth and renewal. When a new temple was to be built, the immense blocks of volcanic stone and other materials weren't hauled over land. They were loaded onto massive barges and floated precisely to the construction site. This method was not only efficient, but also demonstrated the Aztecs' profound understanding of leverage and logistics. It was a water-based system that allowed for architectural ambitions that would have been impossible on solid ground. But the canals were more than just practical infrastructure. They were central to the city's aesthetic and its very atmosphere. The water reflected the brilliant white of the temples and palaces, doubling their grandeur. The surface would shimmer with the colors of the painted buildings and the lush greenery of the gardens that lined the banks. There was a unique tranquility to it all. Instead of the noise and dust of a land-based city, Tenochtitlan was filled with the gentle sounds of water and the quiet dip of paddles. It created a sense of peace and order, even in the midst of a bustling metropolis. Of course, a city of canals required clever engineering. The Aztecs built movable wooden bridges at key intersections. These could be raised or lowered to allow taller boats to pass or to control foot traffic across the canals. In times of war, these bridges became a critical part of the city's defense. By removing them, the Aztecs could effectively isolate sections of the city, turning their beloved canals into defensive moats that baffled their enemies, as the Spanish conquistadors would later discover. The system also served a vital sanitation role. The constant flow of water, managed by a series of dikes and sluice gates, helped to flush waste away from the city center, contributing to a level of public health and cleanliness that amazed the first European visitors. They were accustomed to the filth of medieval European cities, and the relative cleanliness of Tenochtitlan was a testament to the Aztecs' sophisticated understanding of urban planning and hygiene. Life was lived on the water. Children learned to paddle canoes as soon as they could walk. Fishermen cast their nets into the canals, pulling in fish and salamanders that formed a key part of the local diet. Lovers might have met for a quiet paddle under the moonlight. The canals were the backdrop for every aspect of life, from the mundane to the sacred. Religious processions often took place on flotillas of decorated canoes, turning the waterways into stages for grand ceremony. When the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés and his men arrived in 1519, they were utterly dumbfounded. They had seen Venice, but Tenochtitlan was something else entirely. It was grander, more orderly, and seemed to rise from the water like an enchanted vision. Bernal Díaz del Castillo, one of Cortés' soldiers, wrote in his chronicles, "We were amazed on account of the great towers and temples and buildings rising from the water. Some of us soldiers even asked whether the things that we saw were not a dream. This dreamlike quality was a direct result of the canal system. The city wasn't just built asterisk on asterisk a lake. It was a city asterisk of asterisk. The lake. The water wasn't an obstacle to be overcome. It was a gift to be utilized. The Aztecs mastered their environment with a grace and intelligence that is still awe-inspiring today. They created a unique urban ecosystem, a symbiosis of humanity and water that functioned with incredible efficiency and breathtaking beauty. So as we close this chapter, let's hold on to that image. A city of silent, gliding canoes, of waterways reflecting towering pyramids, of a bustling populace, living in harmony with the water that gave their city life. The canals were the veins and arteries of Tenochtitlan, carrying the very essence of the Aztec world. They were more than just streets. They were the soul of the city. Thank you so much for joining me on this aquatic tour of Tenochtitlan. The story of this city is filled with so much wonder and ingenuity. If you're enjoying this journey, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next chapter, where we'll explore the heart of the city's economy, the incredible market of Tlat. See you, dear. Hello, history buffs, and welcome back to our journey through the Aztec Empire. Today, we are re-stepping onto the engineering marvels that connected the island city of Tenochtitlan to the mainland. The three great causeways. These weren't just roads. They were the arteries of an empire, pulsing with life, trade, and power. Imagine a bustling city, floating on a lake, linked to the world by these incredible feats of construction. How did they build them? What was it like to walk them? And how did they play a pivotal role in both the rise and fall of this magnificent civilization? We're about to explore the causeways to Tecaba, Tipiak, and it's uncovering the stories embedded in their very foundations. So, lace up your walking shoes as we prepare to traverse these legendary paths that defy time. Let's start by setting the scene. Picture the Valley of Mexico, a vast basin ringed by mountains and volcanoes, with a series of interconnected lakes at its heart. In the middle of Lake Texcoco, the Mexica people founded their capital, Tenochtitlan. It was a strategic choice, offering natural defenses, but it also presented a massive logistical challenge. How do you connect an island city of over 200,000 people to the resources and territories on the shore? The answer was a testament to Aztec ingenuity. The causeways, these weren't simple dirt paths. They were wide, raised roads, built straight as an arrow across the shallow lake waters. They were so robust that, centuries later, their routes still form the basis for some of modern-day Mexico City's major avenues. These weren't just functional. They were monumental statements of power and control over the natural world. The construction process itself was an incredible undertaking. The Aztec engineers would first drive long wooden stakes deep into the soft lake bed, creating two parallel lines to mark the path. The space between these lines was then filled with a mixture of earth, clay, and rubble, sometimes reinforced with volcanic rock. They would pack this material down layer by layer, raising the road surface several feet above the water level. This prevented flooding and created a stable, durable roadway. The causeways were remarkably wide, described by the Spanish conquistadors as being wide enough for 8 horsemen to ride abreast. This width was crucial, as it needed to accommodate a constant, two-way flow of people. Merchants carrying goods, tribute bearers from conquered provinces, priests leading processions, and armies marching to and from campaigns. The longest and most important of these was the Iztapalapa Causeway, stretching nearly 5 miles to the south. This was the main artery connecting Tenochtitlan to the fertile Chinampa agricultural zones and the city-states of the Southern Valley, including its namesake, Iztapalapa. Walking this causeway would have been an awe-inspiring experience. On Etacidi, you'd see the shimmering waters of the lake, dotted with countless canoes ferrying goods and people. The causeway itself was a hive of activity. Markets might spring up along its length, and travelers would stop to rest and admire the panoramic view of the floating city rising from the water ahead. It was this very causeway that Hernan Kortz and his men first traversed to enter Tenochtitlan, a moment of profound wonder and trepidation as they marched towards their meeting with Emperor Moctezuma II. To the west was the Tacubaya Causeway, the shortest of the three, running about 2 miles. This was the primary route to the mainland kingdom of Tlacopan, one of the members of the Aztec Triple Alliance. Its historical significance is immense, particularly for one tragic event. It was along this causeway that the Spanish attempted their desperate nighttime escape from Tenochtitlan, on what became known as La Noche or the Night of Sorrows. Weighed down by plundered gold and relentlessly attacked by Aztec warriors from canoes on all sides. Hundreds of conquistadors and their allies perished in the lake. The gaps in the causeway, which the Aztecs had opened, became deadly traps. The Tacubaya Causeway, a symbol of connection, became a brutal symbol of conflict and defeat for the invaders. The third great artery was the Causeway of Tepeyac, which ran north for about 3 miles. This path connected the city to the mainland near the hill of Tepeyac, a site that was already sacred in the pre-Hispanic era. This causeway was vital for bringing in fresh water from mainland springs. Alongside it, the Aztecs constructed a magnificent aqueduct, made of terracotta pipes, supported by a stone and mortar structure. It carried fresh, clean water directly into the heart of the city for public fountains and reservoirs. This was a critical piece of public works, showcasing the advanced understanding of hydraulics and civil engineering the Aztecs possessed. It ensured the city's massive population had access to a reliable source of drinking water, a fundamental requirement for urban survival and prosperity. The Tepeyac Causeway and its aqueduct were a lifeline, demonstrating a sophisticated level of urban planning that rivaled any in the world at the time. But these causeways were more than just roads and aqueducts. They were also integral parts of the city's defense system. They were designed with strategic, removable bridges. These wooden bridges spanned gaps left intentionally in the causeways. In times of peace, they allowed canoed traffic to pass underneath without obstruction. In times of war, however, they could be quickly pulled up, transforming the causeways from welcoming avenues into formidable barriers. This turned Tenochtitlan into a true island fortress. When the Spanish laid siege to the city, the Aztecs utilized this defensive feature to great effect, trapping the invaders and controlling access to the capital. The causeways became the primary battlegrounds, with fierce fighting taking place for control of every section and every bridge. The very structures designed to connect the city to the world were instrumental in its defense. Imagine the daily life on these causeways. From sunrise to sunset, they would have been thronged with people. Merchants, known as Pachteca, would travel in long caravans, their backs laden with exotic goods from distant lands. Brilliant quetzal feathers, jaguar skins, jade cocoa beans, and cotton textiles. They would be heading towards the great market of Tlatelolco, a sensory explosion of sights, sounds, and smells. Alongside them, you'd see farmers bringing fresh produce from the chinampas, fishermen with their daily catch, and artisans carrying their crafts. You'd also see nobles carried in ornate litters, priests in their ceremonial attire, and messengers running at full speed, delivering news across the empire. The causeways were the perfect stage to witness the diversity and dynamism of Aztec society, a microcosm of the entire empire, concentrated on these narrow strips of land. Ultimately, the causeways that symbolized Aztec power and ingenuity also played a central role in their downfall. During the final siege of Tenochtitlan, Kortz recognized that to conquer the city, he had to control the causeways. He built brigantine small, armed sailing vessels too, controlled the lake, and support his ground troops as they fought their way, inch by bloody inch, down the causeways. The fighting was brutal. The Aztecs would fiercely defend a section, then retreat, pulling up the bridges behind them. The Spanish would have to fill the gaps with rubble from destroyed buildings before they could advance with their cannons and cavalry. The city that was once fed and supplied by these arteries was now being strangled by them. The very structures that connected Tenochtitlan to its empire became the pathways for its destruction. Today, the physical causeways are mostly gone, buried beneath the asphalt and concrete of modern Mexico City. Yet, their legacy endures. The Calzada de Tlalpan follows the route of the Iztapalapa Causeway. The Mexico-Tacuba Road traces the path of the Tacubaya Causeway, and the Calzada de Guadalupe runs where the Tepeyac Causeway once stood. Driving or walking these modern streets, you are treading on centuries of history, following the footsteps of emperors, warriors, merchants, and conquerors. These ancient engineering marvels remind us of the incredible vision and skill of the Aztec people. They built a world-class city in the middle of a lake and connected it to the world with structures that were as beautiful as they were functional, as strategic as they were symbolic. The causeways were the lifelines of an empire, and their story is the story of Tenochtitlan itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible walk through history. The story of the Aztec causeways is a powerful reminder of human ingenuity and the complex relationship between connection and conflict. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's greatest civilizations. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We love hearing from you, so please leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploding. Have you ever wondered how a massive, bustling city like Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire, could feed its hundreds of thousands of people? The answer lies not just in their military might or vast trade networks, but in a breathtakingly clever invention that turned a swampy lake into one of the most productive agricultural systems in human history. Today, we're diving deep into the incredible world of the chinampas, the so-called floating gardens. Now, when you hear floating gardens, you might picture little rafts of flowers drifting aimlessly on the water, but the reality was far more stable, far more ingenious, and on a scale that is truly mind-boggling. The chinampas were not truly floating. They were man-made agricultural plots, built right into the shallow lake beds of the Valley of Mexico. This system was the lifeblood of the Aztec Empire, a testament to their profound understanding of ecology, engineering, and sustainable farming, long before those terms even existed. So, how did they do it? How did they transform a challenging wetland environment into a year-round breadbasket? Let's peel back the layers of this ancient marvel. The construction of a chinampa was a masterclass. In using local resources, the process began with the Aztecs staking out a rectangular area in the shallow waters of Lake Texcoco. These areas were typically long and narrow, often about 100 feet long and 15 to 30 feet wide. This specific shape was crucial for irrigation and accessibility. Once the perimeter was marked with posts, they would weave a sturdy fence-like structure between the posts using reeds and branches, creating a giant, enclosed underwater rectangle. Think of it like building the foundation of a house, but underwater and with natural materials. With the frame in place, the real work began. Aztec farmers would then dredge the rich, nutrient-dense mud and sediment from the bottom of the lake and pile it inside this enclosure. They layered this muck with decaying vegetation, more reeds, and other organic materials. This wasn't just random filling. It was a deliberate process of creating a super-fertile soil bed. They would continue to pile on this mixture of mud and organic matter until it rose above the water level, forming a stable, rectangular island of incredibly fertile soil. The brilliance of this design was its self-sustaining nature. The porous walls of the chinampa allowed water to seep in from the surrounding canals, ensuring the soil remained consistently moist without ever being flooded. It was a perfect, self-irrigating system. To anchor these newly formed islands and prevent erosion, the Aztecs planted willow trees, known as ashwot. At the corners and along the edges, the roots of these trees would grow down and firmly secure the chinampa to the lake bed, creating a permanent and stable structure. These willows also provided shade, acted as a windbreak, and could be harvested for wood and other materials. It was a holistic system where every element had a purpose. The canals between the chinampas weren't just for irrigation. They served as transportation corridors. Farmers could navigate their canoes right up to the edge of their gardens to tend to their crops and transport their harvests directly to the markets of Tenochtitlan. So, what made the chinampas so unbelievably productive? It was a perfect storm of agricultural advantages. First, the soil. The lakebed mud was packed with organic nutrients, and the farmers constantly replenished it by scooping up fresh sediment from the canals, a process that both fertilized the chinampa and kept the canals from silting up. This was natural, continuous fertilization. Second, the water supply was constant and reliable. The crop's roots could always reach the high water table, making them essentially drought-proof. a huge advantage in a region with distinct wet and dry seasons. This ideal environment allowed for intensive year-round cultivation. While farmers on dry land might get 1 or 2 harvests a year, chinampa farmers could get up to seven harvests a year. This astonishing productivity was key to supporting the dense urban population of the Aztec capital. They cultivated a wide variety of crops. The staples, of course, were maize, beans, and squash, the 3 sisters of Mesoamerican agriculture, but they also grew an incredible diversity of other plants: tomatoes, chili peppers, amaranth, and a huge array of flowers, which were culturally significant and used in ceremonies and as decorations. The agricultural cycle was managed with meticulous care. Farmers would often use special seed beds, sometimes on rafts or in designated corners of the chinampa, to germinate their seeds. Once the seedlings were strong enough, they would be carefully transplanted into the main plot. This method maximized the growing space and ensured a continuous, overlapping cycle of planting and harvesting. Imagine one section being prepared for planting, another with sprouting seedlings, and a third ready for harvest, all on the same small island, all at the same time. The efficiency was off the charts. This system wasn't just about food production. It created a unique and vibrant ecosystem. The canals teemed with fish, amphibians, and waterfowl, providing an additional source of protein for the Aztec diet. The chinampas and their surrounding canals formed a complex, biodiverse landscape that was both productive and beautiful. It was a harmony between human ingenuity and the natural environment. The entire system was a living, breathing testament to the Aztec ability to adapt and innovate, turning a potential obstacle, massive swampy lake into their greatest agricultural asset. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the early 16th century, they were utterly astonished by what they saw. They described Tenochtitlan as a Venice of the New World, and the chinampas were a huge part of that awe-inspiring sight. They had never seen anything like this sophisticated and productive form of agriculture. It was a system that sustained a city larger than most European capitals of the time, all without the use of plows or domesticated beasts of burden. It was powered by human ingenuity, hard work, and a deep, symbiotic relationship with the surrounding environment. Sadly, after the Spanish conquest, much of this incredible system was destroyed. The Spanish, unfamiliar with its workings and eager to create a city more in their own image, began to drain the lakes. As Mexico City expanded over the centuries, the vast network of chinampas shrank dramatically. What was once a sprawling agricultural landscape that covered thousands of acres was reduced to a few small pockets. However, the legacy of the chinampas is not entirely lost. In the southern borough of Mexico City, in a place called remnants of this ancient agricultural system still exist. Today, you can take a ride on a colorful boat, a traginera, through the canals and see the chinampas firsthand. While many are now used for growing flowers for the tourist market rather than feeding a city, they stand as a living museum of Aztec engineering. These remaining chinampas are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for their immense cultural and historical importance. They also offer crucial lessons for our modern world, serving as a powerful example of sustainable agriculture, water management, and urban food production. In an age where we face challenges of food security and environmental degradation, the principles behind the chinampas of working with nature, recycling nutrients, and creating resilient, local food systems are more relevant than ever. The floating gardens of the Aztecs were not just a clever way to grow food. They were the heart of an empire, a feat of ecological engineering that continues to inspire and instruct us centuries later. They remind us that sometimes the most innovative solutions are found by looking back at the wisdom of the past. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time to explore the incredible chinampas. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe for more dives into history's hidden wonders, and share this video with someone who would appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what ancient marvel you'd like to see covered next. Until then, stay curious. Upbeat, intriguing music starts and then fades to the background. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Imagine living on an island, surrounded by salt water, yet needing fresh, clean water every single day for drinking, cooking, and farming. This was the exact challenge faced by the Aztecs in their magnificent capital, Tenochtitlan. How did they solve this incredible engineering puzzle? That's what we're diving into today. The story of the Aztec aqueducts, a true marvel of ancient engineering. Before we get to the stone structures we see today, it's important to understand the context. Tenochtitlan was built on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. While the lake provided a natural defense and resources like fish and reeds, its water was brackish and not suitable for drinking. The early settlers relied on a few freshwater springs on the island. But as the city's population exploded, these sources became completely inadequate. A city of over 200,000 people couldn't survive on just a few small springs. The demand for fresh water was immense, not just for the people, but for the emperor's elaborate botanical gardens and the famous floating farms. A grander solution was needed, and fast. The Aztecs, being the brilliant problem solvers they were, looked to the mainland. The most promising source was the hill of Chapultepec, which means hill of the grasshopper. Located a few kilometers away, Chapultepec was blessed with abundant, pure, freshwater springs. The challenge wasn't finding the water. It was figuring out how to transport it across the lake and into the heart of their bustling island city. The first attempt, under the rule of Emperor Shimmered, was a simpler construction of packed earth, reeds, and hollowed-out logs. It was a functional start, but it was vulnerable. It was prone to leaks, contamination, and damage from the natural shifting of the lake bed. It worked, but it wasn't the permanent, monumental solution that a city as grand as Tenochtitlan deserved. It was clear that a more robust and lasting system was required to secure the city's future. This is where the legendary ruler Nezahualcóyotl, the poet king of Texcoco and a key ally of the Aztecs, enters the story. Known for his wisdom and engineering prowess, he was instrumental in designing the new, revolutionary aqueduct. The plan was ambitious: build a massive dual-channel stone causeway that would stand the test of time. Construction began around the mid-15th century under the reign of Moctezuma I. It was a colossal undertaking. Thousands of laborers were mobilized. They drove wooden piles deep into the soft lake bed to create a stable foundation. On top of these, they built a causeway, a raised earthen embankment, about 5 feet high and 5 feet wide. This wasn't just a simple path. It was a carefully engineered structure designed to support the weight of what was to come next. The real genius of the design was the superstructure. On top of this causeway, they built 2 parallel channels, each about 1 meter wide. These channels were constructed from stone and lined with a waterproof mortar made from lime, sand, and other binding agents to prevent any leakage. Why 2 channels? This is where the Aztec foresight really shines. One channel would always be in use, delivering a constant stream of fresh water to the city. Man-wheel. The other channel could be shut down for regular cleaning and maintenance without ever interrupting the city's water supply. This ensured that the water flowing into Tenochtitlan was not only plentiful, but also clean and hygienic. The aqueduct followed a gentle, carefully calculated gradient, using gravity to carry the water effortlessly from the higher elevation of the Chapultepec Springs down into the city. As the aqueduct reached the edge of the city, it didn't just dump water into the canals. The system became even more sophisticated. The main flow was directed into distribution centers and public fountains in the city's major plazas, particularly near the Templo Mayor, the religious and social heart of the empire. From these public access points, a whole new industry emerged. Water carriers, known as tlapolan, would collect water in large clay jars and distribute it throughout the city's neighborhoods, either selling it in the marketplace or delivering it directly to homes for a fee. Imagine a home delivery service for fresh water in the 15th century. Smaller terracotta pipes and open channels branched off the main aqueduct, feeding the emperor's private baths, the extensive royal gardens, and even providing irrigation for the chinampas, ensuring a year-round supply of fresh produce. The impact of this aqueduct on Tenochtitlan was transformative. It was, quite literally, the city's lifeline. With a reliable supply of fresh water, public health and sanitation improved dramatically. The population could continue to grow, and the city could flourish. The aqueduct wasn't just a piece of infrastructure. It was a powerful symbol of the Aztec Emperor's ability to provide for his people and to tame the natural world. It showcased their advanced understanding of hydraulics, materials science, and large-scale project management. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in 1519, they were utterly astounded. Many of them came from European cities that were still struggling with sanitation, often drawing water from polluted rivers. To see this clean, organized, and massive water system was something beyond their imagination. Bernal Díaz del Castillo, one of Cortes' soldiers, wrote in his chronicles about the great pipes of fresh water that ran into the city, a testament to the awe it inspired. During the siege of Tenochtitlan, Hernán Cortés recognized the strategic importance of the aqueduct. One of his first military objectives was to cut off the city's water supply by destroying the Chapultepec aqueduct. He knew that without fresh water, the city's resistance would eventually crumble. This act alone highlights how central the aqueduct was to the city's survival. Even after the conquest, the Spanish recognized the brilliance of the Aztec design. They repaired and continued to use the aqueduct for centuries, building upon the original foundations. Fragments of this colonial-era aqueduct, which followed the path of the Aztec original, can still be seen in Mexico City today along Chapultepec Avenue, a silent reminder of this incredible engineering legacy. So, the next time you turn on a tap, take a moment to think about the Aztecs. In a city built on water, they mastered the art of moving water to build one of the greatest civilizations of the Americas. Their aqueduct wasn't just about survival. It was a statement of power, ingenuity, and a deep understanding of their environment. It was the beating heart of an empire, delivering life with every drop. Thanks so much for watching. What ancient feat of engineering amazes you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Until next time, stay curious. Hello Hesty Buffs and adventurers! Welcome back to our journey through the magnificent Aztec Empire. Today, we're looking way up to the heavens as we explore the architectural marvels that define the Aztec spiritual world. Their towering temples. This is Chapter 10. Temples rising to the sky. Imagine standing in the heart of Tenochtitlan, the bustling capital. All around you is the vibrant energy of a metropolis, but your gaze is inevitably drawn upward to one structure that dominates the skyline. The Templo Mayor, the Great Temple. This wasn't just a building, it was the sacred heart of the Aztec universe, the Axis Mundi, connecting the earthly realm to the heavens above and the underworld below. The story of the Templo Mayor begins with the very founding of Tenochtitlan. Legend tells us that the wandering Mexica people were guided by their patron god, who told them to build their city where they saw an eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent. When they found this sign on an island in Lake Texcoco, they didn't just build homes. They immediately constructed a shrine to Huitzil. This humble, redandamid hut was the first iteration of what would become the colossal Templo Mayor. Over the next 2 centuries, as the Aztec Empire grew in power and wealth, so did their most sacred temple. It was rebuilt and expanded at least 7 times by successive rulers, each new layer enveloping the last, like the rings of a tree. This wasn't about erasing the past, but about building upon it, with each emperor literally adding their legacy to the sacred mountain. The final version, the one the Spanish conquistadors saw, was a massive stepped pyramid, soaring approximately 45 meters, or 150 feet, into the sky. But what made the Templo Mayor truly unique were the twin temples perched at its summit. This dual structure represented a core concept of Aztec cosmology, duality. One temple, painted in brilliant white and blue, was dedicated to Tlaloc, the ancient and revered god of rain, water, and agricultural fertility. His side of the pyramid symbolized sustenance, life, and the bounty of the earth. The steps leading to his shrine were often decorated with motifs of water, shells, and aquatic creatures. Worshipping Tlaloc was essential for survival, ensuring the rains would come and the crops would grow, feeding the vast population of the empire. The other temple, painted in a stark, intimidating red and black, was dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the young, fierce Aztec god of the sun and war. He was the divine protector of the Mexica people, the one who guided them to their promised land and led them to military victory. His side of the pyramid represented the sun's daily battle against darkness, the strength of the Aztec warriors, and the necessity of tribute and sacrifice to keep the cosmos in order. The stairs leading to his shrine were steeper and more dramatic, symbolizing the arduous journey of the sun across the sky. This duality wasn't a conflict, but a balance. Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc represented two fundamental forces: the fire of war and the sun, and the water of life and agriculture. Together, they embodied the Aztec concept of Atollechinoli, or water-burnt land, a metaphor for sacred warfare. The Templo Mayor was a physical manifestation of this cosmic equilibrium, a constant reminder that both life-giving rain and the warrior's strength were necessary to sustain the empire. The temple's architecture was steeped in symbolism. The pyramid itself was a man-made sacred mountain, mirroring Coatepec, or Serpent Mountain, the mythical birthplace of Huitzilopochtli. According to the myth, Huitzilopochtli was born here, fully grown and armed, and he defeated his 400 siblings. The stars, led by his sister, the moon goddess, Coilzoqui. He dismembered her and cast her body down the mountain. At the base of the Templo Mayor's Huitzilopochtli side, archaeologists discovered a massive, circular stone disc depicting the dismembered body of Coilzoqui. This powerful sculpture wasn't just art, it was a constant reenactment of the cosmic myth. The sacrificial victims, often captured warriors, were taken to the top of the pyramid, and after the ritual, their bodies were rolled down the steps, landing upon or near this very stone, recreating Huitzilopochtli's primordial victory over the forces of darkness. The entire sacred precinct surrounding the Templo Mayor was a sprawling complex of about 78 different structures. There were smaller temples dedicated to other important deities like Tezcatlipoca, the god of fate and sorcery, and Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god of wind and knowledge. There was the Comacac, the school for the sons of nobles who would become priests or high-ranking officials. There were priests' quarters, a ball court for the sacred game of Oli Melisli, and a terrifying yet sacred rack displaying the skulls of sacrificial victims, a testament to the god's power and the empire's might. Every element was meticulously planned to align with celestial events. The Templo Mayor itself was oriented to face the west, so during the spring and autumn the sun would rise directly between the two temples of Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc. This precise astronomical alignment reinforced the temple's role as the center of the cosmos, a place where time and space converged. The ceremonies performed here were not random acts. They were part of a complex ritual calendar designed to harmonize human activity with the cycles of the gods in the universe. The construction of these monumental structures was an incredible feat of engineering. Remember, the Aztecs had no beasts of burden, no wheeled vehicles, and no iron tools. The massive stones were quarried miles away, transported on rafts and log rollers, and then shaped and fitted together with astonishing precision. Tens of thousands of laborers, many from tributary states, were conscripted for these projects. Building these temples was not just an architectural endeavor. It was a state-run operation that demonstrated the emperor's power to command vast resources and manpower. These temples were the stages upon which the great dramas of Aztec spiritual life were played out. Imagine the sights, sounds, and smells of a major festival. Thousands of people packed into the plaza, the air thick with the fragrant smoke of copal incense and the rhythmic beat of drums. Priests in elaborate feathered costumes and jaguar skins chant and dance. The emperor himself, seen as the god's representative on earth, presides over the ceremonies. These events were public spectacles that united the community, reinforced social hierarchies, and reaffirmed their collective faith and identity. The Templo Mayor and the other sacred sites of Tenochtitlan were more than just stone and mortar. They were living monuments, physical prayers, and cosmic diagrams. They were the points where the divine touched the mortal, where the fate of the universe was negotiated through ritual and sacrifice. They rose to the sky, not just to be seen, but to reach out and touch the gods, ensuring the delicate balance between humanity and the cosmos would hold for another day. These temples were the soul of the Aztec world, a testament to their deep faith, their incredible ingenuity, and their understanding of their place in the universe. Thank you for joining me on this ascent into the sacred world of the Aztecs. It's a complex and fascinating subject, and we've only scratched the surface. If you found this journey as awe-inspiring as I did, please give this video a thumbs up. And do you want to forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter? We love hearing from you. so leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome, friends, to our journey through history. Today, we step into a world brimming with life, a place of vibrant color and ceaseless rhythm. We are visiting the great marketplace of Tlatelolco, the bustling heart of the Aztec Empire. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine. The air is filled with a gentle hum, a symphony of 1,000 conversations, the soft clinking of wares, and the distant calls of vendors. It's a sound not of chaos, but of community, of life flowing like a great, peaceful river. As we walk, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of it all. The marketplace stretches out before us, a city within a city, meticulously organized. We're now in the section dedicated to goldsmiths and jewelers. Look at the intricate work. Here, artisans are crafting delicate hummingbirds from shimmering turquoise and brilliant gold. Each piece tells a story, a testament to incredible skill passed down through generations. Notice the quiet focus on their faces, the pride they take in their craft. There's no shouting here, just the soft tapping of tiny hammers and the murmur of admiration from onlookers. Now, let's move into the aroma-filled aisles of the food vendors. The scent of fresh tortillas, warm on the comal, mingles with the sweet fragrance of tropical fruits, mangoes, papayas, and the exotic mamey sapote, piled high in colorful pyramids. We see vendors selling cacao beans, the currency of the empire, carefully counting them out. Over there, a woman is arranging flowers, creating breathtaking bouquets of marigolds and dahlias. The colors are almost overwhelming, a painter's palette brought to life. Yet, amidst all this abundance, there's an order, a sense of calm purpose. We wander further, past sellers of fine textiles. The cotton cloaks, or tilmas, are dyed in rich hues of cochineal, red and indigo blue, woven with patterns of gods and geometric shapes. You can feel the softness of the fabric, a testament to the weaver's art. Nearby, potters display their wares, elegant vases and sturdy cooking pots, their surfaces polished to a gentle sheen. Each transaction is a quiet negotiation, a dance of respect between buyer and seller. There are no loud arguments, only polite exchanges, a mutual understanding. In another section, we find merchants who have traveled from the far reaches of the empire. They bring exotic goods, vibrant feathers from tropical birds, jaguar pelts for the nobility, and precious jade stones. Their stories are whispered, tales of long journeys through jungles and over mountains. They are the arteries of this great marketplace, bringing the lifeblood of the empire to its very core. They rest in the shade, sharing a meal, their faces weathered, but their eyes bright with the spirit of commerce and adventure. Let's pause by one of the canals that run through the market. Canoes glide silently on the water, laden with produce from the chinampas, the floating gardens. A farmer pulls his canoe, his movements graceful and efficient as he navigates the gentle current. It's a scene of serene industry, a reminder that this entire metropolis is connected to the natural world in a profound and sustainable way. The water reflects the blue sky and the brilliant colors of the market, creating a shifting, dreamlike mosaic. As we continue our walk, we notice the judges of the marketplace. They sit on a raised platform, observing the proceedings with a calm, steady gaze. Their presence ensures fairness and honesty. If a dispute arises, it is brought before them and resolved quietly and justly. This system of order is the unseen foundation upon which this entire, vast enterprise is built. It's why a place with tens of thousands of people can feel so peaceful, so secure. Everyone knows the rules, and everyone respects the balance. We now find ourselves among the vendors of everyday necessities. Here are the tool makers, selling obsidian blades, sharper than steel. Here are the sandal makers, the basket weavers, and the sellers of salt, a precious commodity brought from the coast. This is where ordinary people come to trade for the things they need to live. It's a portrait of daily life, unadorned and authentic. A mother tests the weight of a grinding stone. A farmer barters for a new rope. These simple, essential moments are the true heartbeat of Tlatelolco. The sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the plaza. The golden light bathes the market in a warm, ethereal glow. The hum of the crowd begins to soften as vendors start to pack away their goods. The energy doesn't disappear. It simply transforms like a slow, deep breath at the end of a long day. The rhythm changes from the bustle of trade to the quiet satisfaction of a day's work well done. Families gather, sharing stories and food as twilight descends. Our journey through the marketplace of Tlatelolco is coming to an end. We leave not with a sense of overwhelming noise or confusion, but with a feeling of profound peace and admiration. We have witnessed a magnificent expression of human ingenuity, community, and artistry. It was more than just a place to buy and sell. It was a living, breathing entity, a center of culture and connection, a testament to a civilization that, for all its might, understood the value of order, beauty, and quiet dignity. Thank you for walking with me through this incredible place. I hope this glimpse into the past has been as inspiring for you as it has been for me. If you enjoyed our journey today, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more explorations into the wonders of history. Until next time, stay curious. Hello and welcome back. Today, we're stepping back in time, not just to a place, but into the very pulse of a civilization. We're exploring daily life in the magnificent Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. Forget the grand temples and epic battles for a moment. Instead, let's walk the bustling streets, visit the vibrant markets, and see how ordinary people lived, worked, and dreamed in a city built on water. Imagine waking up before sunrise. The air is cool and misty, carrying the scent of damp earth and cooking fires. The first sounds you hear aren't cars, but the gentle lapping of water against canoes and the distant calls of early rising birds. This was the daily reality in Tenochtitlan. Life was dictated by the sun and the seasons, a rhythm deeply connected to the natural world. The city was a marvel of engineering, a metropolis floating on Lake Texcoco. Causeways, like great stone arteries, connected the island city to the mainland. But within the city, the real highways were the canals. Thousands of canoes glided through these watery streets, carrying everything from produce and building materials to gossiping neighbors on their way to the market. This constant movement of water and people was the lifeblood of Tenochtitlan, a society perfectly balanced between land and lake. Let's start our day with the fishermen. Long before the city's markets opened, these men were out on the lake in their simple dugout canoes, or asterisk, a callous asterisk. They knew the lake's secrets, where the best fish schooled, how to catch waterfowl with clever nets, and how to harvest the nutritious algae called asterisk, tetraedal asterisk. Their catch was essential, providing a vital source of protein for the city's massive population. It was hard, patient work, a testament to their deep understanding of their unique aquatic environment. As the sun climbs higher, the city's heart begins to beat faster. Let's head towards the market, the famous asterisk, Tenochtitlan asterisk, of Tlatelolco, Tenochtitlan's sister city. This wasn't just a place to shop, it was the social and economic hub of the entire empire. The sheer scale would be overwhelming. Picture tens of thousands of people, a kaleidoscope of sights, sounds, and smells. The air would be thick with the aroma of freshly baked tortillas, spicy stews simmering in clay pots, sweet tropical fruits, and fragrant flowers. Here, you could find anything your heart desired. In one section, farmers laid out vibrant displays of maize in every color, heaps of beans, chilies, tomatoes, and avocados. In another, artisans proudly showed off their wares. You'd see jewelers meticulously crafting ornaments from gold, silver, and precious jade. Potters would be turning clay into beautiful, functional vessels, their hands moving with practiced ease. Featherworkers, among the most esteemed artisans, would be weaving iridescent hummingbird and quetzal feathers into breathtaking capes and headdresses for the nobility. The market was a place of order amidst the chaos. Judges sat at the market's edge to settle disputes instantly, ensuring fairness in every transaction. Instead of coins, people bartered, trading goods for goods. For smaller items, cacao beans were often used as a form of currency. You could buy a turkey for 100 beans, or a single large tomato for just one. This system created a dynamic and personal economy, where every trade was a conversation. Now, let's leave the market's hustle and bustle and wander into the residential neighborhoods, or asterisk. Calpo is asterisk. These were more than just city blocks. They were tight-knit communities, almost like large extended families. Each Asterix Calpuli. Asterix had its own school, its own small temple, and its own elected leaders. It was here that the true fabric of Aztec society was woven. Homes were typically single-story structures made of adobe brick with thatched roofs. Inside, life was simple but organized. The central courtyard was common, open to the sky, providing a space for family activities and small-scale gardening. Families slept on reed mats, called asterisk petletel, and cooked over a hearth of 3 stones. The core of the family was the mother, the heart of the household. Her day was a constant cycle of work, grinding corn on an asterisk metate, asterisk to make dough for tortillas, weaving cotton into cloth on a backstrap loom, tending to the children, and maintaining the household shrine to the gods. Education was highly valued. All Aztec children, regardless of their social standing, attended school. Boys and girls were taught separately. Most boys went to the asterisk Telpochcali asterisk, the house of youth, where they learned history, civic duties, and the arts of war. Sons of the nobility attended the asterisk Kamakac asterisk, a stricta school, where they were trained to become priests, judges, or government officials. Girls, meanwhile, were educated in skills related to running a household, weaving, and religious rituals, preparing them for their vital roles within the family and community. As evening approaches, the city's rhythm changes once more. The workday winds down. Families gather for their main meal, sharing stories and reinforcing the bonds that held their society together. But for some, the day is far from over. Let's turn our attention to the spiritual heart of the city. The priests. In the great ceremonial precinct, the Templo Mayor loomed over everything, a constant reminder of the god's power. Priests were the intermediaries between the human and divine worlds. Their lives were dedicated to ritual and observance. They maintained the sacred fires that were never allowed to die out, performed daily ceremonies, and studied the complex calendar to interpret omens and determine auspicious days for everything from planting crops to going to war. Their role was all-encompassing, a heavy responsibility that shaped every aspect of life in Tenochtitlan. So, as we look out over the city as twilight paints the sky, we see a civilization of incredible complexity and harmony. We see fishermen returning with their day's catch, artisans packing up their precious goods, and families gathered in the warm glow of their homes. We see a society where every person, from the humble farmer to the high priest, had a distinct and important role to play. Life in Tenochtitlan was a delicate dance between labor and ritual, community and faith, all unfolding in a breathtaking city that floated on water. It was a world built on a foundation of shared purpose and a deep connection to the land, the lake, and the cosmos. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of Tenochtitlan. I hope it gave you a new perspective on this incredible civilization. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the past, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what you found most fascinating about daily life in the Aztec capital. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through history. Today, we're stepping into a world of almost unimaginable splendor, a place that left even the most seasoned Spanish conquistadors speechless. We are venturing into the heart of the Aztec Empire to explore the magnificent palaces and gardens of the great emperor, Montezuma II. Imagine, for a moment, arriving in Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital, a bustling metropolis built on an island in the middle of a lake. As you navigate its canals and causeways, your eyes are drawn to a vast, sprawling complex of buildings. This isn't just one palace, but a series of them, each more breathtaking than the last. The Spanish chronicler, Bernal Diaz del Castillo, who saw it with his own eyes, wrote that he was so astonished he thought he was dreaming. He described walls of polished stone, so bright they shone like silver, and vast courtyards paved with intricate patterns. The main palace, Montezuma's residence, was a masterpiece of engineering and artistry. It was constructed from red tizantel, a porous volcanic rock, and adorned with fine woods like cedar and cypress, carved with incredible skill. The sheer scale was immense, with some accounts suggesting it had over 100 rooms, each with its own private bath. Think about that for a second. In the early 16th century, while much of Europe was still living in comparatively rustic conditions, the Aztec emperor had a palace with 100 private bathrooms. It speaks volumes about the level of sophistication and the importance placed on cleanliness and comfort in their culture. Inside, the rooms were filled with luxury. Instead of heavy, ornate furniture, the Aztecs favored low wooden stools, intricately carved and painted, and comfortable woven mats and cushions. The walls were hung with vibrant cotton textiles, dyed in brilliant colors, and adorned with delicate featherwork, an art form the Aztecs had perfected. Imagine walls shimmering with the iridescent feathers of hummingbirds and quetzals, woven into mosaics that depicted gods, historical events, and scenes from nature. It must have been like walking through a living gallery of light and color. But Montezuma's world wasn't just confined to stone and wood. It was a world teeming with life. One of the most astounding features of his palace complex was the aviary. This wasn't just a few cages with birds. It was a massive, dedicated sanctuary, home to thousands of birds from every corner of the vast Aztec Empire. There were eagles, parrots of every color, brilliant, scarlet macaws, and of course, the sacred quetzal with its long, emerald green tail feathers. A dedicated staff of hundreds of people was employed just to care for these birds. They were fed specific diets: fish for the water birds, seeds, and fruits for others. There were even specialized doctors who would tend to sick birds. The aviary was a symphony of sound and color. The air would have been filled with a constant chorus of calls, whistles, and songs, a vibrant, living testament to the empire's reach and its deep connection to the natural world. The Spaniards were mesmerized, having never seen anything like it. And the wonders didn't stop with birds. Adjacent to the aviary was Montezuma's zoological collection. Again, this was no small menagerie. It was a sprawling zoo that housed a stunning array of animals. There were jaguars and pumas held in strong wooden cages. There were wolves, coyotes, and ocelots. In watery enclosures, you could find crocodiles and a vast array of snakes, some described as being incredibly large. The roars and calls of these powerful creatures would have echoed through the palace grounds, a primal sound reminding everyone of the wild, untamed power that the emperor commanded. Just like the aviary, the zoo had a dedicated team of caretakers. They were responsible for feeding and looking after these animals, a task that was both dangerous and demanding. The collection served multiple purposes. It was a symbol of Montezuma's power, showing that he controlled not just people, but the most ferocious beasts of the land. It was also a center for study, allowing the Aztecs to observe and learn about animals from distant territories. And, on a darker note, some of these animals, particularly the predators, were reportedly fed the remains of sacrificial victims, a grim reminder of the religious practices that were central to Aztec life. Beyond the noise and wildness of the zoo, one could find tranquility in Montezuma's legendary botanical gardens. These weren't just decorative flower beds. They were a vast, masterfully planned landscapes, with some of the most famous being in Huaxtepec, miles away from the capital. But even within Tenochtitlan, the palace grounds were filled with green spaces. Imagine walking through these gardens. You'd stroll along stone pathways, past bubbling fountains and cool, clear ponds teeming with fish. The air would be heavy with the scent of countless flowers, many of which had medicinal or ceremonial significance. The Aztecs were expert botanists, and these gardens were living libraries of plants. They cultivated vanilla orchids, cacao trees, and a staggering variety of flowers, herbs, and medicinal plants collected from all over their empire. There were shaded groves of trees, quiet courtyards designed for contemplation, and terraces bursting with color. These gardens were a stark contrast to the bustling city and the imposing stone architecture. They were places of peace, beauty, and scientific importance. They were a sanctuary where the emperor could escape the pressures of rule and connect with the natural world. They were also a practical resource, providing herbs for the royal physicians and ingredients for the royal kitchens. The sheer variety and organization of these gardens showcased a deep, scientific understanding of horticulture that was far ahead of its time. Putting it all together, Montezuma's palace complex was more than just a home. It was a microcosm of his entire empire. It was a center of political power, a treasure house of art and tribute, a living museum of the natural world, and a sanctuary of serene beauty. It was designed to awe and intimidate, to showcase the immense wealth, power, and sophistication of the Aztec civilization. When the Spaniards saw it, they were confronted with a reality that shattered their own worldview. They had come seeking gold, but they found a civilization that, in many ways, was as complex and refined as their own, if not more so. The tragedy, of course, is that this world was almost completely destroyed. The palaces were torn down, the gardens were overrun, and the animals were lost. What we know today comes from the amazed, and sometimes horrified, accounts hand witnesses, and the careful work of archaeologists who pieced together fragments of this lost world. By studying these accounts, we can, for a fleeting moment, step back in time and wander through those polished halls, listen to the songs of 1,000 birds, and breathe in the fragrance of a garden that was truly fit for an emperor. It is a powerful reminder of the incredible achievements of the Aztec people, and the profound loss that their conquest represented. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of Montezuma's incredible world. It's a story that continues to fascinate and inspire. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history's most amazing stories. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next episode. See you next time. Hello, and welcome back to our journey. Tonight, we find ourselves at the edge of dusk, entering a chapter of quiet contemplation. Nightfall on the water. Let's allow the world to slow down, and together, let's watch the day give way to the gentle embrace of the night. The sun, a fiery artist, has just finished its masterpiece, painting the western sky in hues of deep orange and soft violet. Its last rays retreat, pulling the warmth of the day with them, and a cool, tranquil air begins to settle over the city. The once bustling streets, alive with the sounds of merchants and hurried footsteps, now begin to whisper. The clamor softens into a distant hum, a city breathing a collective sigh of relief. One by one, windows begin to glow, little squares of warm, inviting light against the cooling stone facades. Life doesn't stop. It simply changes its rhythm, shifting from the public square to the private hearth. Now, turn your gaze to the canals. The water, which mirrored the brilliant blue of the daytime sky, now transforms into a dark, liquid obsidian. It's no longer a pathway for commerce, but a canvas for the coming night. The surface, once choppy with the wakes of countless boats, grows still, its ripples softening into gentle, lazy swells. It's a moment of transition, a sacred pause between the world of the sun and the world of the moon. This is where our story begins tonight, in Tisciat, magical interval. Look, the first star appears, a lone diamond pinned against the deepening velvet of the sky. Then another, and another, until the heavens are scattered with the fine dust of ancient light. And then, rising with a silent, regal grace, comes the moon. Tonight, it is a perfect, luminous pearl, casting a soft, ethereal glow upon the world below. Its light isn't harsh or revealing like the sun's. It's a gentle caress, a silver wash, that softens sharp edges and cloaks the city in a sense of mystery and wonder. The moonlight spills over the rooftops, tracing the elegant curves of archways and the strong lines of bell towers in liquid silver. It transforms the familiar, making the ordinary seem enchanted. Every cobblestone gleams as if polished. Every iron gate casts a delicate, intricate shadow. The city you knew by day is gone, replaced by its nocturnal twin, a place of quiet beauty and whispered secrets. The moon's reflection shimmers on the canal's surface, a perfect, unbroken circle of light floating on the darkness, a beacon in the liquid night. It's as if the sky is bent down to kiss the water, leaving a mark of pure, cool light. And now, listen. The silence is not empty. It's filled with the subtle symphony of the night, the gentle lapping of water against the stone foundations of buildings, the distant, lonely cry of a night bird echoing through the narrow alleys. The soft rustle of leaves in a hidden courtyard, stirred by a breeze you can barely feel. It's a peace so profound you can almost hear the slow, steady heartbeat of the sleeping city. But the night is not entirely dark, nor is it entirely silent. Along the waterways, the torch-bearers begin their nightly ritual. One by one, points of fire bloom into existence. These are not the cold, distant lights of the stars, but warm, living flames. Each torch is set in an iron sconce, its fire casting a vibrant, dancing light that flickers and leaps with every gust of wind. The flames paint the surrounding walls in shades of amber, gold, and deep, warm red. They create a moving tapestry of light and shadow, a stark, beautiful contrast to the cool, steady glow of the moon. Watch how the torchlight plays upon the water. It doesn't merge with the moonlight, but complements it. Where the moon casts a wide, silver sheen, the torches lay down shivering ribbons of gold. As a gondola, its passengers silent, glides ghost-like through the canal. Its passage sends these ribbons of light scattering into 1,000 glittering fragments. The water becomes a kaleidoscope of silver and gold, a dark mirror reflecting both the heavens and the earth, the eternal and the immediate. The rhythmic dip of the gondoliers, or is the only sound, a steady, hypnotic beat in the profound stillness. The air itself seems to have changed. It carries the cool, damp scent of the water, mixed with the faint, resinous smell of burning pitch from the torches. From an open window somewhere above, the delicate fragrance of night-blooming jasmine drifts down, a sweet, invisible thread in the tapestry of the night. It's a scent that speaks of hidden gardens and secret moments, a perfume for the dreamers and the wanderers of the dark. Close your eyes for a moment and just breathe it in. Let these scents transport you, anchoring you in this perfect, peaceful moment. This is a time for reflection. The city at night invites a different kind of seeing, a different kind of being. Without the distractions of the day, the mind can wander freely. You might find yourself contemplating the history held within these stone walls, the countless lives that have unfolded here under this very same moon, the lovers who have drifted down these canals, the secrets whispered across these very waters. The city at night is a library of stories, and the moonlight is the lamp by which you can read them. Every shadow holds a possibility, every glint of light a memory. The darkness isn't something to be feared. It's a canvas that allows the light to show its true beauty. The quiet isn't emptiness. It's the space where you can finally hear your own thoughts, your own breath. This slow, meditative rhythm of the water, the fire, and the moonlight is a lullaby for the soul. It's a reminder that even after the most chaotic of days, there is always a return to peace, a return to stillness. As we drift here, suspended between the silver moon and the golden torches, let this tranquility seep into you. Let the gentle rocking of the water soothe away any lingering tension. Let the quiet fill the noisy corners of your mind. This chapter isn't about action or plot. It's about presence. It's about being fully here, in this moment, witnessing the simple, profound beauty of nightfall on the water. It's a gift, this peace. A moment of pure, unadulterated serenity. The night deepens, the stars burn brighter, and the city settles into its slumber. The flickering torches will keep their vigil until dawn, their warm light a promise of the sun's return. But for now, we remain here, in the heart of the beautiful, silent night. Let its magic hold you for just a little while longer, a perfect, peaceful end to our shared journey tonight. Thank you so much for joining me in this quiet contemplation. If this moment of peace resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like, subscribe, and perhaps share it with someone else who might appreciate a quiet escape. Until we meet again, may your nights be as peaceful as this one. Have you ever felt that shock of seeing something so incredible, so far beyond your wildest dreams, that it completely shatters your understanding of the world? Imagine you've spent months trekking through dense jungles, battling unfamiliar diseases, and fighting your way through hostile territories, all fueled by rumors of a golden city. Then, one day, you crest a mountain pass, and laid out before you is not just a city, but a wonder of the world. This was the reality for Hernan Cortes and his few hundred conquistadors in November of 1519. As they descended into the Valley of Mexico, they saw it. Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. What they witnessed was not some primitive settlement. It was a metropolis that dwarfed anything they had ever seen in Europe. Seville, the largest city in Spain at the time, was a cramped, chaotic town in comparison. Tenochtitlan was a breathtaking spectacle of engineering and artistry. Picture this: a massive city floating on a lake, connected to the mainland by 3 enormous causeways, wide enough for 10 horses to ride abreast. These weren't rickety wooden bridges. They were masterfully constructed stone and earth roads, punctuated by drawbridges that could be raised for defense. Along these causeways, thousands of people bustled back and forth, merchants with their goods, nobles in ornate litters, and commoners going about their daily lives. The lake itself was alive with a flotilla of thousands of canoes, a liquid highway system ferrying people and supplies across the water. From their vantage point, the Spaniards could see the gleaming white of the stuccoed buildings, sparkling under the high-altitude sun. Towering above everything were the great pyramids, the temples dedicated to their gods. The most magnificent of all was the Temple Mayor, a massive twin-peaked pyramid at the very heart of the city, its shrines painted in brilliant blues and reds. The Spanish soldier Bernal Diaz del Castillo, who chronicled the expedition, later wrote, "We were amazed," and said that it was like the enchantments they tell of in the legend of Amides, on account of the great towers and temples and buildings rising from the water, and all built of masonry. And some of our soldiers even ask whether the things that we saw were not a dream. A dream. That's the word they kept coming back to. How could this exist? They had been raised to believe that Europe, Christian Europe, was the pinnacle of civilization. Yet here, in what they considered a savage new world, was a city cleaner, larger, and arguably more organized than any in Spain, Italy, or France. The streets were swept daily by teams of workers. There were aqueducts bringing fresh water into the city from the surrounding mountains. They saw botanical gardens and zoos, meticulously maintained and filled with plants and animals from every corner of the vast Aztec Empire. As they marched closer, their amazement was tinged with a growing sense of dread and confusion. This wasn't a simple conquest they were walking into. This was the heart of a powerful, sophisticated civilization. The sheer scale was overwhelming. The population was estimated to be over 200,000 people, making it one of the largest cities on the planet. Cortes had fewer than 400 soldiers with him. It was like a tiny village trying to invade London or Paris. When they finally entered the city itself, the spectacle only intensified. They were greeted by Moctezuma, to the Aztec Emperor, not as invaders, but as honored guests, perhaps even as gods foretold in their legends. Moctezuma carried on a magnificent litter, adorned with gold and the brilliant green feathers of the quetzal bird, was surrounded by nobles in fine cotton robes. He walked on woven mats so his feet would not touch the ground. He presented courts with gifts of such incredible value, intricate gold jewelry, elaborate featherwork, and precious stones that the Spaniards could barely comprehend the wealth they were witnessing. They were led through a bustling marketplace, the market at Tlatelolco, which was even more staggering than the city itself. It was larger and better organized than any market in Europe. Tens of thousands of people gathered there, buying and selling everything imaginable: gold, silver, and gems, pottery of every shape and size, textiles of incredible softness and color, exotic foods like tomatoes, chocolate, and turkeys which the Europeans had never seen before, and even a section where enslaved people were sold. The order and efficiency of it all were mind-boggling. There were judges who patrolled the market, settling disputes on the spot. But alongside this wonder, there was a deep cultural shock. The Spaniards were devout Catholics, and the Aztec religion was profoundly alien and, to them, horrifying. The temples they had admired from afar were, up close, stained with the dark residue of countless human sacrifices. They saw racks of skulls, desampantly, displaying the remains of thousands of victims. The statues of their gods, like Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, were imposing and terrifying figures. This fusion of sublime beauty and what they perceived as brutal savagery created a profound cognitive dissonance. How could a people who could build such a magnificent city also practice rituals that seem so demonic? For Courts and his men, Tenochtitlan was a paradox. It was a treasure trove beyond their wildest fantasies, a city of dreams, a testament to human ingenuity. But it was also the heart of a powerful and alien empire whose values and beliefs were fundamentally opposed to their own. They were a handful of foreigners in a sea of millions, trapped in a golden cage. Their initial awe was quickly replaced by a pressing question. How could they possibly conquer this place? And more importantly, how would they ever get out alive? The arrival in Tenochtitlan was not the end of their journey. It was the beginning of one of the most dramatic and brutal clashes of civilizations in human history. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this glimpse into the past as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what part of this story amazed you the most. See you in the next video. Hello, and welcome back to our deep dive into history's most poignant tales. Today, we're exploring a story of immense tragedy, one marked by a haunting contrast between its serene narration and the brutal reality it depicts. We're journeying back to the final days of the Aztec Empire to witness the siege and fall of the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan. Imagine a city built on water, a Venice of the New World, crisscrossed by canals and floating gardens. For centuries, Lake Texcoco was the lifeblood of Tenochtitlan, a source of sustenance, a means of transportation, and a natural defense. The Aztecs saw it as a gift from the gods, a shimmering jewel in the heart of their valley. The gentle lapping of its waters, the canoes gliding silently across its surface. The abundance of fish and waterfowl, these were the rhythms of daily life. The air was filled with the sounds of a thriving, vibrant civilization. But in 1521, this idyllic scene was shattered. The Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernan Cortes, laid siege to the city. Their strategy was as simple as it was devastating: to sever Tenochtitlan from its source of life. The very lake that had nurtured the city for generations was to become its tomb. The narrative of this period is chilling, not for its graphic descriptions of violence, but for its strangely placid tone. It's as if the storyteller is detached, observing from a great distance, recounting the events with a calm, almost pastoral voice. The text speaks of the water levels receding, not with panic, but with a quiet, observational sorrow. It describes the lake being drained, a simple word that carries the weight of an entire world ending. This deliberate contrast is what makes the story so powerful. As we read about the waters pulling back from the chinampas, the floating gardens that fed millions, we don't hear screams of despair. Instead, we get a sense of a slow, inevitable demise. The canals, once bustling with trade and life, transform into muddy trenches, then dry, cracked earth. The canoes, once symbols of Aztec ingenuity, are beached and abandoned, becoming useless wooden husks. The draining of the lake was a strategic masterstroke by the Spanish, but it was also an act of profound ecological and cultural destruction. It was the first step in suffocating the city. Without water, there was no food. Thirst became a constant torment. The natural defenses that had made Tenochtitlan seemingly impregnable were rendered obsolete. The Aztec warriors, fierce and proud, found themselves trapped on an island that was no longer an island. As the siege tightened, the peaceful narration continues its heartbreaking work. It speaks of the cutting of the great causeways, the arteries that connected the city to the mainland. Again, the language is deceptively simple, describing the methodical destruction as if it were a routine construction project. But for the people inside the city walls, each severed causeway was another nail in their coffin, another escape route cut off, another hope extinguished. The psychological impact of watching their world literally dry up is hard to fathom. The lake wasn't just a resource. It was central to the Aztec cosmology, a sacred space. To see it vanish must have felt like the gods themselves had abandoned them. This spiritual desolation, combined with the physical suffering, created a sense of hopelessness that seeped into the very soul of the city. The siege dragged on for months. Disease, brought by the Europeans, ravaged the population, accomplishing what Aztec spears and arrows could not. Starvation turned the once proud citizens into walking skeletons, yet the narrative maintains its somber, quiet tone. It doesn't dwell on the gore or the horror in a sensationalist way. Instead, it focuses on the quiet moments of suffering, the silence in the marketplace, the empty fishing nets, the children too weak to cry. This stylistic choice forces us, the readers, to fill in the emotional gaps. The understudied tragedy becomes even more profound because we are left to imagine the terror, the grief, and the despair. The contrast between the peaceful prose and the horrific events creates a cognitive dissonance that is deeply unsettling. It's a reflection of how trauma is often processed not with a constant scream, but with a stunned, quiet disbelief. Finally, after 80 days of relentless pressure, the city fell. On August 13th, 1521, the last Aztec emperor, Cuauhtémoc, was captured. The fighting ceased. The great city of Tenochtitlan, once the heart of a powerful empire, was reduced to rubble and silence. The narrative describes the end not as a climactic battle, but as a slow, fading breath. The once shimmering lake was now a muddy grave, and the canals were filled with the bodies of the dead. The story of the fall of Tenochtitlan is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable hardship, but it is also a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of conquest. The serene, almost poetic narration of its end serves as a haunting eulogy for a lost world. It forces us to look beyond the battlefield and see the deeper tragedy. The draining of a culture, the silencing of a people, and the erasure of a way of life that was intimately connected to the water that once gave it life. By telling the story this way, the author ensures that we don't just learn about the historical event. We feel its weight. We feel the quiet sorrow of watching a beautiful thing disappear. The peaceful tone isn't a sign of indifference. It's the sound of a heart breaking slowly, of a memory being etched into history with tears rather than with blood and fire. It's a powerful lesson in storytelling, showing how the quietest voices can often tell the most devastating tales. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. The fall of Tenochtitlan is a complex and sorrowful chapter of human history, and I hope this exploration gave you a new perspective on it. If you found this video insightful, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that have shaped our world. Your support means everything. See you next time. Ever walked the bustling streets of Mexico City and felt like you were treading on history? Well, you literally are. Beneath the concrete and asphalt of this vibrant metropolis lies a ghost city, an ancient empire sleeping just underfoot. Today, we're diving deep, peeling back the layers of time to uncover the incredible secrets of Tenoch, the magnificent Aztec capital that modern Mexico City was built upon. Imagine, if you will, a city not of roads and cars, but of shimmering canals and floating gardens. A city built on an island in the middle of a vast lake, connected to the mainland by massive causeways. This was Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec Empire, a marvel of engineering and a hub of culture. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they were so astounded by its scale and beauty that they compared it to Venice. Kalin Ite, Venice of the New World. But after the conquest, this incredible city was systematically dismantled, its temples torn down and its canals filled in to make way for a new colonial capital. For centuries, it seemed Tenochtitlan was lost forever, a legend swallowed by the earth. But history has a way of resurfacing. It started with whispers, then small discoveries. In 1978, a group of electrical workers were digging near the city's main square. They hit something hard. It wasn't just a rock. It was a colossal, intricately carved stone disc, over 10 feet in diameter. The stone depicted the moon goddess, Coyolxauhqui, dismembered and defeated. This single, stunning discovery was the key that unlocked everything. Archaeologists realized they had found the footsteps of the Templo Mayor, the great temple, the most sacred site in the entire Aztec Empire. The discovery of the Coyolxauhqui stone sparked one of the most exciting urban archaeological projects in modern history. A whole city block was excavated, revealing the staggering foundations of the Templo Mayor. It wasn't just one pyramid, but a series of 7 pyramids built one on top of the other, like a set of Russian nesting dolls. Each successive ruler would build a larger temple over the previous one to demonstrate their power and piety. Excavating it was like peeling back the layers of a historical onion, each layer revealing more about the city's past. They unearthed sacrificial stones, chacmal statues staring into eternity, and countless offerings to the gods' masks. Jade, obsidian knives, and even treasures from faraway lands, showing the vast reach of the Aztec Empire. Today, you can visit the Templo Mayor Museum right next to the Mexico City Metropolitan Cathedral. It's a surreal experience. On one side, you have the symbol of Spanish conquest, and just feet away, you have the exposed heart of the civilization it replaced. It's a powerful, visible reminder of the clash of two worlds. You can walk on elevated pathways over the ruins, looking down at the very foundations of Aztec spiritual life, seeing the stone serpent heads and the haunting effigies that were hidden for nearly 500 years. But the Templo Mayor is just the tip of the iceberg, or perhaps the tip of the pyramid. The secrets of Tenochtitlan are everywhere. Whenever there's new construction in the historic center, workers hold their breath. In 2006, the discovery of a massive monolith of the earth goddess Tlaltecutli halted construction of a new university building. This single stone, weighing 12 tons, is one of the largest Aztec monoliths ever found. It was an offering, buried at the base of the Templo Mayor, its fierce face meant to be seen only by the underworld. More recently, in 2015, another incredible find sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Beneath the colonial-era building, archaeologists using ground-penetrating radar found something truly chilling and fascinating. Yui Tzampantli, the great skull rack of Tenoch. The Spanish conquistadors wrote about this horrifying structure with a mixture of fear and awe. A massive rack, displaying thousands of human skulls. For a long time, historians thought it was an exaggeration, a piece of propaganda to justify the conquest. But they found it a tower, made not of stone, but of human skulls, bound together with mortars. Initial excavations uncovered over 650 skulls, including those of women and children, challenging the long-held belief that only captured warriors were sacrificed. It was a gruesome but profoundly important discovery, offering a raw, unfiltered look into the rituals and worldview of the Aztecs. This wasn't just a symbol of death. For the Aztecs, it was part of a cyclical understanding of life, death, and rebirth, a sacred offering to keep the sun in the sky and the universe in balance. Finding the skull rack confirmed the Spanish chronicles and brought us face to face with the stark realities of Aztec religion. And what about the city's famous canals, the Venice of the New World? You can still see echoes of them today. The Xochimilco Ecological Park in the south of the city, with its colorful Trajinera boats floating down ancient canals, is a living remnant of the vast lake and canal system that once defined the Valley of Mexico. But even in the dense urban core, the city's watery past makes its presence known. Many of the oldest colonial buildings in the historic center are sinking. Why? Because they were built on unstable landfill that was once the bed of Lake Texcoco. The Metropolitan Cathedral, for example, has been sinking unevenly for centuries, a constant, slow-motion battle between colonial architecture and the Aztec lake bed beneath it. Archaeologists have even been able to trace the roots of ancient canals by following the lines of sinking and damaged buildings. They've found remnants of wooden canal walls and even ancient canoes buried in the mud. There's an entire aquatic world down there. Modern projects, like the construction of new metro lines, often turn into impromptu archaeological digs. During the expansion of Metro Line 12, workers uncovered more than just dirt. They found ceramic vessels, human remains, and the foundations of Aztec homes that once lined the shores of the lake. It's a constant dialogue between the present and the past, where the needs of a modern megacity have to negotiate with the fragile remains of an ancient one. Think about that the next time you're in Mexico City. When you're walking through the Zócalo, you're standing in what was once the ceremonial heart of the Aztec universe. When you see a crooked colonial church, you might be looking at the legacy of a filled-in canal. The city is a living palimpsest, a manuscript that has been written on, erased, and written on again, but where faint traces of the original texts always remain. Beneath the noise of traffic, you can almost hear the echoes of the past. The murmur of the marketplace at Tlatelolco, the chants of priests at the Templo Mayor, the gentle lapping of water against the chinampas, the floating gardens. The story of Tenochtitlan is a powerful reminder that the past is never truly gone. It's buried, yes, but it's still here, shaping the present in ways we are only just beginning to understand. Every new excavation, Every accidental discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, giving us a clearer picture of this extraordinary city and the people who built it. The ghost of Tenochtitlan doesn't haunt Mexico City. It is its very soul, waiting just beneath the surface to be rediscovered. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the depths of history. It's truly incredible what lies just beneath our feet. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's hidden secrets. Let me know in the comments what other lost cities you'd like to explore. Until next time, keep exploring. Have you ever looked at the Mexican flag? It's stunning, right? That powerful image right in the center. An eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a serpent. It's more than just a cool design. It's the heart of Mexico's national identity, a story born from myth and legend that has echoed through centuries. Today, we are going to unravel this incredible tale and discover how a divine prophecy became the emblem of a proud nation. This story begins with the Aztecs, or as they called themselves, the Mexica. For over 100 years, they were a nomadic people, wandering through what is now central Mexico. They weren't just aimlessly roaming. They were on a divine quest. Their principal god, Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and war, had given them a sign to look for. He told them they would find their promised land, their permanent home, at the spot where they saw an eagle perched on an opal cactus, devouring a snake. Imagine the journey. Year after year, decade after decade, they searched for this very specific, very dramatic sign. It was a test of faith, a true pilgrimage. They faced hardships, battled other tribes, and endured the uncertainties of a nomadic life, all while holding on to this singular vision. This wasn't just a search for land, it was a search for their destiny. Then, around the year 1325, it happened. They arrived at a marshy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, and there it was. The prophecy manifested in reality. An eagle, majestic and powerful, clutching a serpent in its beak, balanced perfectly on a prickly pear cactus growing from a rock. For the weary Mexica, this was it. This was the sign they had been waiting for their entire lives, and for generations before them. These was on. This sacred place, marked by the eagle and the cactus, is where they founded their magnificent city, Tenochtitlan. On that swampy island, they built a marvel of engineering and civilization. They created floating gardens called chinampas, constructed massive causeways to connect the island to the mainland, and built towering pyramids and temples that reached for the sky. Tenochtitlan grew to become one of the largest and most sophisticated cities in the world at the time, the heart of the vast Aztec Empire. The symbol wasn't just a founding marker, it was woven into the fabric of their culture. It represented the triumph of good over evil, light over darkness. The eagle, a creature of the sky and a symbol of the sun god Huitzilopochtli, represented strength, courage, and heavenly power. The snake, a creature of the earth, often represented the underworld, darkness, or earthly forces. The cactus, a plant that thrives in harsh conditions, symbolized the challenging landscape of their new home. Together, they told a story of divine victory and the establishment of order in the cosmos, right there in the Valley of Mexico. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they were stunned by the grandeur of Tenochtitlan. But in their quest for conquest, they destroyed the city and suppressed Aztec culture. They built their own capital, Mexico City, directly on top of the ruins of Tenochtitlan. For 300 years, the old symbols and stories were forced underground, but they were never forgotten. The legend of the eagle and the cactus was kept alive in the hearts and minds of the people, a secret symbol of their heritage, and a quiet promise of a future return to glory. Fast forward to the early 19th century, the winds of change are blowing across Mexico. The fight for independence from Spanish rule begins. The leaders of the independence movement needed a powerful symbol to unite the people, something that was uniquely Mexican, something that reached back beyond the colonial era to the nation's indigenous roots. What symbol could be more powerful than the very foundation of the Aztec Empire? They embraced the eagle and the cactus. It was a brilliant move. This ancient legend became a banner of rebellion and a symbol of a new, independent identity. It declared that Mexico's identity was not Spanish, but was born from its own rich, pre-Hispanic history. When Mexico finally won its independence in 1821, there was no question what would be at the center of its new national flag. The eagle, the cactus, and the serpent were placed proudly in the middle of the green, white, and red stripes, officially becoming the national coat of arms. But the story doesn't end there. Over the years, the design has been tweaked and standardized, but the core elements have remained unchanged. The green stripe on the flag is said to symbolize hope in the nation's independence. The white represents unity and the purity of their ideals, and the red stands for the blood of the national heroes who fought for freedom. And right in the center, the white stripe holds the most important story of all: the founding of their nation, the divine promise fulfilled. Today, you see this symbol everywhere. In Mexico, it's on government buildings, on currency like the peso coins, on official documents, and of course, on the flag that flies proudly across the country. It's a constant, visible reminder of the nation's unique origin story. It connects modern Mexicans to their ancient ancestors and tells a story of perseverance, faith, and the creation of a home against all odds. It's a beautiful example of how a myth can become something so much more. It's not just a story you tell children. It's a living emblem that defines a nation's soul. It represents the fusion of indigenous and European cultures that characterizes modern Mexico. It speaks to a deep sense of place, a connection to the land itself, and the resilient spirit of its people. So the next time you see the Mexican flag, look closely at that central image. Don't just see an eagle and a snake. See the long journey of the Mexica people. See the founding of the incredible city of Tenochtitlan. See the struggle for independence and the birth of a new nation. You're looking at a story that is almost 700 years old, a powerful symbol of identity, resilience, and destiny, captured forever in the heart of the flag. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of Mexican identity. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more incredible stories from around the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments what other cultural symbols you'd like us to dive into next. Until next time, stay curious. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through the incredible history of the Aztec Empire. Today, we're stepping out of the pages of historical texts and into the heart of modern Mexico City. We're going to explore how archaeologists, like detectives of the past, are uncovering the breathtaking secrets of Tenochtitlan, a city once thought lost beneath the urban sprawl. So, grab your gear, because we're about to go on a digital excavation. Imagine a bustling metropolis, a vibrant, modern city. Now, imagine that just beneath your feet lies another city, a magnificent capital of a powerful empire. This isn't a fantasy, it's the reality of Mexico City, built directly on top of the ruins of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. For centuries, the full extent of this ancient city was a mystery, its wonders buried and forgotten. But thanks to the relentless work of archaeologists, the ghost of Tenochtitlan is rising from the earth, revealing a story of unparalleled ingenuity and resilience. The first major breakthrough came unexpectedly in 1978. Electrical workers, digging near the city's main square, the Zocalo hit a massive, carved stone disc. It wasn't just any rock, it was a stunning depiction of the dismembered moon goddess, Quetzalcoatl. This single discovery was the key that unlocked a much larger puzzle. It led archaeologists directly to the most sacred site of the Aztec Empire, the Templo Mayor, or the Great Temple. This was the spiritual and physical center of their universe, a place they believed connected the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. The excavation of the Templo Mayor has been one of the most significant archaeological projects in the Americas. It's revealed not a single temple, but a series of temples built one on top of the other, like a set of Russian nesting dolls. Each successive Aztec ruler would build a new, grander temple over the previous one to demonstrate their power and piety. Today, you can literally walk through layers of history, seeing the architectural styles of different reigns. Inside these layers, archaeologists have found over 7,000 artifacts offerings to the gods from all corners of the empire. We're talking about jaguar skeletons, coral, crocodile remains, intricate flint knives, and masks made of turquoise and shell. These offerings paint a vivid picture of the vast trade networks and the deep spiritual beliefs that fueled the Aztec world. But the Templo Mayor is just one piece of the puzzle. How did the Aztecs manage to build a city for over 200,000 people on a swampy island in the middle of a lake? This is where their engineering genius truly shines. Modern excavations, often spurred by new subway lines or construction projects, consistently reveal the sophisticated infrastructure that made Tenochtitlan possible. The city wasn't just on the water. It was a masterfully engineered water world. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of massive causeways wide, raised roads that connected the island city to the mainland. These weren't simple dirt paths. They were feats of engineering, strong enough to support thousands of people and transport goods. They even had removable bridges that could be lifted to allow boat traffic or to defend the city in times of war. Then there's the water management system. Living on a lake had its challenges, namely controlling floods and separating the brackish, salty water from the fresh water needed for drinking and farming. Excavations have revealed remnants of an extensive system of dikes and aqueducts. The most famous was a 10-mile-long dike built by the ruler Nisihualcutal, a massive earthen wall designed to protect the city from floods and keep the salty water at bay. Furthermore, archaeologists have traced the paths of twin-channel aqueducts that brought fresh spring water from the mainland directly into the heart of the city. One channel could be cleaned while the other remained in use, ensuring a constant, clean supply. This level of hydraulic engineering was incredibly advanced for its time. Perhaps the most ingenious Aztec innovation was their solution to the lack of farmland. The chinampas, often called floating gardens. They were much more than that. Were man-made agricultural plots built by weaving a frame of reeds, piling on mud and decaying vegetation from the lakebed, and planting willow trees at the corners to anchor them to the lake floor. This created incredibly fertile, self-irrigating land. Archaeologists studying soil composition and using ground-penetrating radar have mapped out the vast network of these. They weren't just a few garden patches. They formed a sprawling grid of canals and fields that produced multiple harvests a year, feeding the city's massive population. This system was so efficient that it's still used in places like Texcoco today, a living testament to Aztec agricultural brilliance. Every new construction project in downtown Mexico City holds the potential for a new discovery. Archaeologists are in a constant race against time, working alongside construction crews to document and preserve what they find. Recently, this has led to some astonishing finds. In 2015, they discovered the Huey, a massive tower of skulls, described by the Spanish conquistadors but thought to be an exaggeration. The excavation revealed a horrifying yet historically significant structure. A rack made of more than 650 human skulls, including those of women and children, offering a stark insight into Aztec ritual and warfare. Another fascinating find is the remains of the elite school for the children of Aztec nobility, where they studied subjects like astronomy, law, and warfare. Finding its foundations helps us physically map out the social structure of the city. These discoveries aren't just about stones and bones. They're about reconstructing a society. They help us understand how people lived, what they believed, and how their city functioned on a daily basis. The rediscovery of Tenochtitlan is a powerful reminder that history is not just in books. It's a living, breathing entity beneath our feet. The work of archaeologists allows us to walk, in a sense, through the streets of this legendary city, to marvel at the ingenuity of its builders, and to connect with the people who called it home. It challenges the old narrative of a primitive people, revealing instead a civilization of sophisticated engineers, urban planners, and artists whose legacy continues to shape the world today. The story of Tenochtitlan is still being written, one artifact, one foundation, one discovery at a time. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible archaeological journey. It's truly amazing what we're still learning about this ancient empire. If you found this fascinating, please give this video a thumbs up, and do you and F forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our journey through history. In our final chapter, we arrive at a place of reflection, exploring the enduring legacy of Tenochtitlan, the magnificent floating city. Though its physical form was lost to the tides of time, its spirit continues to resonate through the centuries, a timeless symbol of human ingenuity and a profound connection with the natural world. Join me as we step back from the grand battles and political dramas we've explored, and instead, listen to the quieter echoes of the past. Let's consider not just what Tenochtitlan was, but what it still represents. It was more than a city of stone and water. It was a living, breathing testament to a civilization that saw no division between humanity and nature, but rather a beautiful, intricate dance between the two. Imagine waking up not to the sound of traffic, but to the gentle lapping of water against the foundations of your home. Instead of concrete sidewalks, you'd traverse canals teeming with life, paddled in canoes laden with fresh produce from floating gardens. This wasn't a fantasy. It was the daily reality for the people of Tenochtitlan. The city's very design was a masterclass in ecological engineering. The famous chinampas, those remarkable floating gardens, were the agricultural heart of the empire. They weren't just a clever way to create arable land in the middle of a lake. They were a complete, self-sustaining ecosystem. The nutrient-rich mud dredged from the canal floors fertilized the crops, which in turn helped to filter the water. This symbiotic relationship between farming and the lake environment demonstrates a level of ecological wisdom that we are only now beginning to reappreciate. In our modern world, this harmony wasn't just practical. It was deeply spiritual. The Aztecs viewed their environment as sacred. The mountains surrounding the Valley of Mexico weren't just geological formations. They were living deities. The waters of Lake Texcoco weren't just a resource. They were the lifeblood of their world, a mirror reflecting the heavens. This worldview fostered a deep respect for the land, a sense that humanity was a steward of the earth, not its master. And what of human creativity? The sheer ambition of Tenochtitlan is breathtaking. To build a metropolis, home to hundreds of thousands of people, on a swampy island, required unparalleled engineering skill, relentless determination, and a visionary spirit. The great causeways that connected the island to the mainland were feats of hydraulic engineering, designed to control water levels and serve as defensive barriers. At the city's heart stood the Templo Mayor, a dual pyramid dedicated to the gods of war and rain. It was a spectacular architectural achievement, a man-made mountain that reached for the sky, adorned with intricate sculptures and vibrant murals. But the city's creativity wasn't confined to its grand monuments. It was woven into the fabric of everyday life in the vibrant textiles worn by its people, the detailed pottery used in their homes, and the poetic language of their songs and stories. Tenochtitlan was a city of artists, poets, engineers, and astronomers. Their understanding of celestial cycles was so advanced that their calendar was more accurate than the one used in Europe at the time. They created a culture rich in art, philosophy, and science, all while living in a city that seemed to float on water. It's a powerful reminder that human potential can flourish in the most unlikely of settings. So, what is the legacy of this floating city today? When you visit modern-day Mexico City, the echoes of Tenochtitlan are everywhere, if you know where to look. The Zócalo, the city's main square, sits directly on top of Tenochtitlan's sacred precinct. The Metropolitan Cathedral was built with stones taken from the Templo Mayor. The canals of with their colorful trajineras and floating gardens are a living remnant of the ancient chinampa system. But the legacy is more than just physical ruins or historical footnotes. The story of Tenochtitlan challenges us to rethink our own relationship with the world around us. In an age of rapid urbanization and environmental concern, the Aztec capital offers a powerful model of sustainable urban living. It shows us that a great city can thrive not by conquering nature, but by coexisting with it, by weaving itself into the local ecosystem in a way that is mutually beneficial. Tenochtitlan reminds us of the incredible heights human creativity can reach. When inspired by a deep connection to the world, it is a symbol of resilience, a city that rose from a marshy island to become the heart of a vast empire. Its story is a testament to the idea that our greatest achievements are not those that define nature, but those that are created in harmony with it. As we conclude our series, the memory of Tenochtitlan stands as a beacon. It is a timeless symbol of ingenuity, a masterpiece of ecological design, and a poignant reminder of a worldview that saw the sacred in every lake, mountain, and stalk of maize. Its physical form may be gone, but its legacy of creativity, resilience, and harmony with Tremens, a vital and inspiring lesson for us all. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through the history of the Aztec Empire and its breathtaking capital. It has been an honor to explore this story with you. If you've enjoyed this series, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more explorations into the fascinating corners of our shared past. Until next time, stay curious.